Good afternoon. It is 3:06 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. You may have heard me earlier this morning. This may be your first time ever hearing me, but welcome into the drive. I'm filling in for Brian Wilson this afternoon, and I'm very excited to be here with you. I do host 9 to 12 on the station, so again, if you're just getting off work, you're skipping out early, getting into Labor Day, this might be your first time listening to me. So hello. How are you? I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Chris Weber is producing, Jay Harper in the newsroom. We got a big day for you guys. We are going to be doing Phone Your FARB Friday. I know that's a favorite on the drive, so we're going to keep that going. At 4:05 today, my friend Pastor John Amanchukwu is going to call in. He's just a bang-up dude. Great guy, good pastor. And one of the things he likes to do is go around to different school board meetings and expose to them what's happening inside their schools, whether it's the pornographic books in the libraries that they want your kids to read, or if it's the fact that you're paying an exorbitant amount to educate kids, yet not educating them. That's actually what happened in Baltimore on Tuesday. In fact, he went to a Baltimore school board meeting to ask them, why does it cost you so much to only have 10% proficiency in math for kids that graduate? It's a good question. It's an important question, one that needs to be asked. Before they could let him ask the question, they declared a citywide emergency and they fled the school board meeting. So he's going to talk to us about what happened in Baltimore. That's going to happen at 4:05. It's going to be a very, very interesting interview. He's always a good guy to talk to, so I'm looking forward to that. The big thing on everybody's mind today is Kamala Harris. And the cope and the seethe from the left today is something that I'm really relishing in. It's something that I really enjoy doing, is mining the salt on the internet. And before we get into Kamala Harris, it's important to look at the reaction from the left today. The first thing I did when I woke up this morning is I opened Twitter, as I often do, and I saw a headline from the Daily Beast. It said, yeah, it was boring, but we're going to tell you why that's not a bad thing. Oh, that's quite the spin. Have you seen the meme of Ben Affleck where he's standing up against the wall and he's smoking the cigarette and he has that look on his face? That was the entire mainstream media after the interview with Kamala Harris yesterday. And I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked why. I'm also hearing rumors that we got to see 18 minutes of it. But the word on the street is that the interview was actually 41 minutes. So what made it to the editing room floor? Well, that's interesting. I bet you it was a lot of Tim Walz jumping in and trying to assist her. And they wanted to make her look strong, even though they did it in the weirdest way, in a small, dark room that looked like an empty Denny's, with her shriveled up and her body language looking poor, Tim Walz towering over her, and Dana Bash towering over her as well. She didn't look good. And my first reaction to Kamala Harris was that she looked insecure, tired, puffy. Maybe she was up a little bit too late the night before tying one on. Maybe. That was my first impression from how she looked. But the best is hearing the left react to it. And they're reacting to it in a way that nobody's really excited. They're just like, okay, we did it. This is Alex Thompson from Axios, which is a bit of a leftist rag, and he's talking about the interview on CNN.
I can tell you that there was, among Biden aides, Harris aides, Democrats across town, like the main attitude was, because essentially some of her worst moments as vice president have been in these interviews, that she can get a little bit on her back foot, that she can get nervous and have these sort of viral word salad clips. Now, I don't think everyone was saying this was like an A+, but they basically got through it.
Yeah, well, you got through it. And the main reaction was, phew. Is that what you want in your leader? It's not what I want. It's not what I want at all. And it's funny that they're actually admitting this on TV. I thought the spin would be in that it was fantastic and she was so brave and inspiring, but we didn't get that. No, we didn't. But, she's repeatedly embarrassed the Biden administration in these interviews. Even the New York Times is mocking her. They wrote an article that was titled A Vice Presidential Learning Curve, How Kamala Harris Picked Her Shots. And they make the point that she's fearful of these interviews. She's a nervous wreck for these interviews. And it's because of Republican criticism. They wrote, stung by an early television interview that went awry, she became skittish about mistakes, asking whether an appearance or a line in a speech might produce another vicious viral clip. If you're worried about what the media is going to say about you, how can we trust you to not be worried when you're staring across the table from Vladimir Putin? When you're staring across the table from Xi Jinping? Well, we can't. And that fear, the New York Times reported, made her largely avoid major interviews for many months and second-guess herself regularly. Fearful. The interview was meh at best. Meh. And the left is trying to spin it as, she did okay. When the best spin that you can get out of an interview is, she did okay. It's pretty rough. That is pretty rough. One of my favorite moments in the interview was Kamala Harris actually admitting that she's never met Donald Trump. Did you know that? She's never interacted with him. Never. I thought that was odd. You feel like their paths would have crossed once before, but no, she doesn't even know this guy that she demonizes as Hitler and a bigot and a racist. She doesn't even know him.
Will you appoint a Republican to your...
Oh, wrong clip. She doesn't know him. She has no idea who he is. It's hilarious. She can say all these mean things and she just doesn't know the guy.
I was a little bit surprised. People might be surprised to hear that you have never interacted with him, met him face to face. That's going to change soon. But what I want to ask you about is what he said last month. He suggested that you happened to turn black recently for political purposes, questioning a core part of your identity.
Yeah.
Any...
Same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah, well, she did actually turn black for political gain. Now, she's always been mixed race, and everybody knows that, but she's definitely leaned into it for political clout. It's hot sauce in the purse pandering is what I like to call it. Remember Hillary Clinton on the Breakfast Club when she was campaigning? Breakfast Club's a big hip-hop morning show in New York, and they said, what do you like for condiments? She's like, I keep hot sauce in my purse, and she pulls a bottle out like she was ready for it. This is the same kind of pandering we get from Kamala Harris. The exact same kind. And you know what? Voters know it. Voters see it. Voters are paying attention to it. MSNBC, of all places, had a mixed race voter panel. And during this mixed race voter panel, they asked mixed race voters if they feel some kind of kinship towards Kamala. And I remind you while you listen to this is on MSNBC.
You feel some kinship towards her as a mixed person?
Not personally. I find a lot of her trajectory to not be my brand of woman leader. We've got 3 major international crises going on and someone applying to be commander-in-chief. As a woman, I want to see you do more than, appeal to giggling and having a girl moment on the stage.
Well, the giggling is actually what she's best at. So you're asking her not to play to her strengths. It's tough. But the fact remains, MSNBC aired this. Can you imagine what they didn't air? They have a mixed race panel of voters, and they're looking for that feel-good sense of, yes, I identify with her. She's one of us. And they go, actually, I don't identify with her at all. She doesn't do a good job. We have all these crises going on, and she could be doing a lot better. She could be doing a lot more. Another guy on the panel, she said, the host looks at him and says, you don't think she can help brown people? Literally said this. Literally.
I just don't think that Kamala Harris has anything vested in the Airfinger, quote, black or Hispanic experience in so much as it would be identified by anybody that lives in those communities.
You're saying you don't think that she can help black or brown people?
No, I mean, going to Howard don't make you black.
Jeez. I love it. They understand that the pandering is there. They know that the pandering is in full swing. She's been doing this since they announced her as the first Indian senator in California. She was leaning into the pandering there because it was a very high Asian American, Indian, Pacific Islander, the AAPI community in that region, and so she leaned into it. Now, as she's running for president, she's leaning into being black. And I was actually messing around between shows on a thing called the Wayback Machine. Have you ever heard about the Wayback Machine? It archives old websites, popular websites. And one of the websites it archives is Wikipedia. So I decided to go back in Wikipedia to the year 2012. And I did a Control F because then you can search anything on the page. And I searched for the word black. And there were 3 mentions of Kamala Harris being black on her page in 2012. Then I fast forwarded to the future. I went to current day 2024 Wikipedia and I searched black. And I saw 28 mentions. 28 mentions of her being black. This is pandering. It's pandering. She doesn't tell us any policies. She sells us on joy. And she wants you to vote for her because she's a strong woman. And gosh darn it, that's good enough. Even when you talk to Kamala Harris supporters, even when the supporters of Kamala Harris are asked the question about her accomplishments, they have no idea. They just say, well, she is a woman, That's pretty cool.
What do you think was Kamala Harris's most memorable moment as VP?
Ooh. I was going to say all of the memes and the internet. Yeah. I was like, just her dancing all around. I'm just like, yes. I mean, when she was with, I think she was like making curry. Who was she with? I know what you're talking about. Mindy Kaling. Yes. Anyways, that was really funny.
It's all about Brat Summer and memes with Mindy Kaling. This is at an actual Kamala Harris rally, by the way. These aren't people on the street that don't know what's going on. These are people that have decided to show up and support her.
I think her most memorable moment was... I should go. I'm so sorry.
She realized that she was in over her head.
I mean, I'm not really too crazy about anything that she has, but I just know that what she does have is actually going to work.
Make it make sense. These are the people that support Kamala Harris.
Like Donald Trump, his campaign has been predicated along the idea that he is going to reduce taxes, reduce inflation, and reduce regulation. And all of those things go against my ideas as to what makes successful economic policy.
Oh, so reducing taxes, reducing inflation, reducing regulation, that's opposite. Okay. All right. Well, then if she wins, you'll be overjoyed because the taxes are going to be coming to a crescendo, if you will. The Trump tax cuts will be gone. They'll let them expire. Unrealized gain taxes are going to be through the roof. They'll start with the millionaires and the billionaires. Don't worry. Then they'll get to us plebes down the road. But it's never going to get any better. It won't. So on the way, we are going to dig in more to this Kamala Harris interview. The interview. The one that was... It was built up in their minds to be so epic, and it was such a fail. That's coming up on The Drive. It's Chris Hand filling in for Brian Wilson on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
A change in Ukraine's Air Force leadership and the world continuing to mourn the loss of a hockey superstar. We'll have those stories at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Jay. It's 3:24 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Who is this guy talking? I'm Chris Hand. I usually do 9 to 12, filling in for Brian Wilson today. Thank you for being a part of the show. If you want to keep up with me off air, get to know me a little bit more, I'm on Twitter, True Social, Instagram, at Chris Hand on air. Somebody we actually want to get to know better is Kamala Harris, and yet I feel like the interview last night, we didn't really get much of that at all. We got her backtracking on a lot of positions that she's held for a long, and we got her trying to make us forget that she's still the vice president and could do a lot of the things that she wants to do right now if she was, at work. But what am I talking about? Nobody works over there. Biden's on vacation again. Kamala Harris is on the campaign trail. She's been doing a bus tour through Georgia, a 2-day bus tour. The struggle bus tour is what we've been calling it on the Chris Hand Show. And now she has this interview with CNN. It wasn't anything impressive. They did ask her what she's going to do day one. Day one was actually quite a few years ago, but I don't know. Let's humor them. What are you going to do day one?
Voters are really eager to hear what your plans are. If you are elected, what would you do on day one in the White House?
Well, there are a number of things. I will tell you, first and foremost, one of my highest priorities is to do what we can to support and strengthen the middle class.
We're waiting, actually. Please don't wait. We've been waiting for a long time for you to look out for us in the middle class. I go to the grocery store. I got 4 kids. We are family size. Could use the help now.
When I look at the aspirations, the goals, the ambitions of the American people. I think that people are ready for a new way forward.
Oh.
In a way that generations of Americans have been fueled by hope and by optimism.
Hope and optimism, a new way forward. I agree with that statement. If it's taken out of context and we're just talking about turning the page away from the Biden-Harris administration, which is what we all want to do, she's trying to separate herself from the Biden-Harris administration and try and just do a Jedi mind trick and say, none of this happened. I wasn't the VP. I am just a senator from California. It's wild to watch. We'll turn the page. We'll turn the page. And it took her less than 1 minute to get into this interview with CNN to bring up the dreaded orange man.
I think, sadly, in the last decade, we have had in the former president someone who has really been pushing an agenda and an environment that is about diminishing the character and the strength of who we are as Americans, really dividing our nation, and I think people are ready to turn the page on that.
Okay, he hasn't been president for 3.5 years, but did you notice what she said in the beginning there? It's now the last decade that Trump has actually been ruining the country. The window is stretching of how long Trump has been this evil fascist. And now it actually includes the tail end of the Obama administration, okay? It includes all of the Trump administration, and it includes the Biden-Harris administration. We can't keep letting them get away with it. We have to turn the page. Unbelievable. But Dana Bash, to her credit, she did ask some questions. I wonder what questions she asked that got scrapped and were sent to the editing room floor, but she did go after Harris for the economy.
You talked about, you call it the opportunity economy. You are well aware that right now many Americans are struggling. There's a crisis of affordability. One of your campaign themes is we're not going back. But I wonder what you say to voters who do want to go back when it comes to the economy specifically, because their groceries were less expensive, housing was more affordable when Donald Trump was president.
What do you say to those voters? Well, Dana, I tell them we're not. We're not going back. It's less optimism and more of like a command. Like, damn it, I said we're not going back. I hope that we do go back, but how does Kamala Harris pivot her way out of that answer? How can she justify the state of the American economy and the state of the economy under Trump and then say, we're not going back? I'll bring you that answer after the news with Jay Harper, which is kicking off right now. My name is Chris Hand. I'm in for Brian Wilson on The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good afternoon. Coming up on 3:30, I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got clouds. In fact, we've got rain in the area. That rain that was promised to hit here this afternoon, it has arrived in parts of our listening area, and this rain has at least gotten the temperature down. We're at 83 degrees currently. We'll get you the forecast and another traffic report here in just a bit, so stand by. During his daily evening address on Friday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed that he had fired the commander of the country's Air Force today, 4 days after an F-16 warplane that Ukraine received from its Western partners crashed during a Russian bombardment. Zelensky explaining that Ukraine needs to strengthen its army on the command level. And the world continuing to mourn the death of a hockey superstar, Johnny Gaudreau of the Columbus Blue Jackets. He was also with the Calgary Flame for 11 years. Gaudreau was killed alongside his brother when they were riding bikes and were hit by a suspected drunk driver last night in South Jersey. ESPN's hockey reporter Emily Kaplan says he was known as a kind and enthusiastic teammate.
Johnny Gaudreau to so many was a brother, a friend, a teammate, Everyone I've reached out to in the hockey world today is shaken. He was known as a guy that would always come to the rink with a smile on his face, but even as he developed into one of the best wingers in the entire world, he was known for his authenticity.
Johnny and his brother Matthew were both killed while riding those bikes. They were in the area to serve as groomsmen for their sister Katie's wedding. Well, that wedding has been canceled for now. Goudreau, Johnny, leaves behind a wife and 2 young children. He has a boy named Noah, who's a year old, and then a 6-month-old son. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
I started work in the early 60s, and Tennessee had a deer stalking program already in place going, primarily from Clarksville base within the Fort Campbell area. From that area, a lot of deer were stalked in middle and west Tennessee, and then later on, we started taking deer from those areas and stalking other areas. So it was a progression. It moved pretty fast. The deer sometimes were faster than the stalkers were.
I bet that was pretty exciting, trying to trap those deer and move them and know that you're making a huge impact.
Well, we wasn't all that confident.
Oh, really?
Because a lot of the counties had dog problems. You know, they'd be wanting to dog the deer, and it didn't hold up under that kind of pressure. And we had to go back in and restock. And there was a lot of different types of law enforcement work that had to be done.
I hear you.
And the officers did a good job. And we talked to a lot of the judges, and they clamped down pretty hard on somebody poaching deer out there. Back then, we only put out 15 or 20 deer. It was critical. In fact, at that time, it could cost you your truck.
Yeah. It's an amazing success story. You hear folks saying, well, we didn't see a deer when I was a kid, and now you just have to walk out your back door and you got in a subdivision grazing or driving down the interstate highways or whatever, you see a deer just about every day.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder if we're too efficient.
Some folks say back in the good old days, but I don't know. Right now, hunting and fishing is really good.
336 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? I'm Chris Hand, filling in for Brian Wilson today on The Drive. Chris Webber producing. You guys get a lot more leftist haters on the text line than I usually do 9 to 12.
Really?
I got one guy. I was making the point that Kamala Harris says, we're gonna do all these things. We're gonna get to work, and you're out campaigning, and Joe Biden's on the beach, so nobody's doing any work. And I got a text that Trump is golfing again, Chris. Like, oh, I didn't know he had a government job. Are our taxes paying for him to do that right now? Also, Trump was in Michigan yesterday, along with Wisconsin, where he held a town hall with Tulsi Gabbard. He keeps bringing in new people to the party. It's interesting. Big tent politics. I like to see it. They're trying to do that with Kamala Harris. That's one of their goals, is big tent politics. Their goals really is just to copy everything from the Trump administration. Everything. And she actually stole the team of rivals during the interview. Did you watch the interview?
I did not, no.
Yeah, it's an occupational hazard for me. But she jacked the team of rivals.
Will you appoint a Republican to your cabinet?
Yes, I would.
Anyone in mind?
I would. No one in particular in mind. We got 68 days to go with this election, so I'm not putting the cart before the horse, but I would. I think.
Anyone in mind? No, well, considering this idea just popped into my head as you asked the question, no, nobody in mind.
I think it's really important. I have spent my career inviting diversity of opinion. I think it's important to have people at the table when some of the most important decisions are being made that have different views, different experiences. And I think it would be to the benefit of the American public to have a member of my cabinet who was a Republican.
Huh. So she's just taking everything. Let's be clear. She's not going to invite Tim Burchett into the cabinet. It would be a Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger. I figure like the best that we would get would be Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan. You know what I mean? Like that. Not anybody that's actually solid. I don't think she's going to invite Matt Gaetz. I don't think she's going to go for anybody that actually has spine and a little chutzpah. Not her style. But geez Louise. The Kamala Harris interview, I've been looking for the overnight ratings because she sat down for 41 minutes is the rumor. It got edited down to 18 minutes, but we waited 40 days for this thing. And it was stretched so thin on CNN that they had to fill it with fluff and campaign videos. And it was just embarrassing to watch. I was embarrassed for them. I feel like they should be embarrassed, although they don't really think about themselves too much in a negative light. They probably think that they did glowingly, and that's fine. I can't wait to see what the poll numbers look like. But 40 days for 18 minutes of airtime. Now, let's put this in context, okay? Trump has had 4 major interviews in the last couple of weeks. He did 57 minutes with Dr. Phil. That got 1.7 million views. He did 57 minutes with Theo Vaughn, which was actually a fantastic podcast. Theo Vaughn's a comedian, lives in Nashville. That got 12 million views. That interview was different, too, because it was so humanizing when he's talking about his brother's alcoholism and how that affected him growing up, and that's why he doesn't drink. And it was a good interview, worth the watch if you haven't seen it. So the Theo Vaughn interview was 57 minutes, 12 million views. The Elon Musk interview was 2 hours and 3 minutes, 27 million people watching live. I'm not going to even try to quantify how many have watched it after the fact or the clips. 72% of the listeners that checked into that Twitter space live were under the age of 34. Then he did a podcast with Sean Ryan, military guy. A lot of people really like him that listen to WTN. I can see why when you watch that interview. 1 hour and 11 minutes, 2.5 million views. Are we thinking that she's scratching any of these view totals with the CNN interview? No. And to be fair, the Kamala campaign has reached out to internet influencers ad nauseum. They have reached out to so many of them. Kai Cenat, he's a big video game, YouTube, Twitch streamer, and he actually got in trouble because he was trying to give away PS5s in Times Square like a year or so ago and started a riot. But he goes on his live stream. He says, Secret Service, stop calling me. I'm not doing an interview with Kamala Harris. She wants to do this stuff. The people don't want her there. Elon Musk did invite her. No word on if she's going to accept that or not. Why is she hiding from people? Well, that's the strategy. And the more we listen to this CNN interview with Kamala Harris, the more it becomes apparent why she's hiding. You know, Kamala Harris, she's essentially promising communism with what she's proposing in the price controls. Her staff understand how unpopular that is, and they're going behind her and telling big donors, "Don't worry, it'll never pass Congress." Like, okay, it still sounds like something that she wants to do, and that's scary enough. We're going to let her near the White House? It seems like a wild proposition. But we've already seen what she's done. Dana Bash ripped her for the economy. She said, you know, you've been in office for 3.5 years. What's going on with the economy? Kamala Harris did not have a good answer. Her answer was, her answer was blame Trump.
Start with the fact that when Joe Biden and I came in office, during the height of a pandemic, we saw over 10 million jobs were lost. People, I mean, literally, we were all tracking the numbers. Hundreds of people a day were dying because of COVID. The economy had crashed.
Okay, so, I mean, do we want to belabor the COVID point? More people died because of COVID under Biden than Trump. But let's also talk about what the lockdowns did to people. Who kept people out of school? Who pushed the mandates that cost people their jobs? That's all you guys. You can deflect all you want. We inherited an economy that crashed. It's like, inflation was at 2.2%. Jobs were already coming back. You inherited an economy that was pretty decent, and job numbers were on the rebound through no work of your own. But, you know, hey, do you?
In large part, all of that because of mismanagement by Donald Trump of that crisis. When we came in, our highest priority was to do what we could to rescue America. And today, we know that we have inflation at under 3%.
Okay. Prices are still going up, just not as fast anymore. That's the sell.
A lot of our policies have led to the reality that America recovered faster than any wealthy nation around the world.
Yeah, and a lot of your policies led to the crippling inflation that we are dealing with at our grocery stores, our gas pumps, our house prices. Do I need to go on? Our energy bill, our insurance rates, everything. Everything. And she constantly brags about being those tie-breaking votes in the Inflation Reduction Act that crippled the middle class with inflation. But Harris agrees. Prices are too high. You know, who can hide from the in-store prices? She's got a solution, though. Communism.
But you are right. Prices, in particular for groceries, are still too high. The American people know it, I know it. Which is why my agenda includes what we need to do to bring down the price of groceries. For example, dealing with an issue like price gouging. What we need to do to extend the child tax credit to help young families be able to take care of their children in their most formative years.
Okay, so you're pro taking care of kids, also pro abortion bans outside the DNC. And your side criticizes J.D. Vance when he's talking about child tax credits, but when it's politically beneficial, you're pro child tax credits. Got it.
What we need to do to bring down the cost of housing. My proposal includes what would be a tax credit of $25,000 for first-time home buyers.
So a tax credit. People are buying groceries on credit cards. How are they going to come up with a down payment? And in unrelated news, house prices go up $25,000, right? Totally separate nothing to do with this.
So they can just have enough to put a down payment on a home, which is part of the American dream and their aspiration, but do it in a way that allows them to actually get on the path to achieving that goal and that dream.
Yeah, we got to achieve the American dream. That way, when you achieve it, we can tax the hell out of you. That's the Democrat way. They always talk outside both sides of their mouth on that. Oh, we want to help the middle class create generational wealth. We want to tax unrealized gains to take away generational wealth. It can't be both ways. It can't. But Kamala Harris does her best to always do things both ways, and we've seen it through the flip-flopping, and she essentially got called out for flip-flopping on fracking. Say that 5 times fast. By Dana Bash last night.
When you were in Congress, you supported the Green New Deal. And in 2019, you said, quote, "There is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking." Fracking, as you know, is a pretty big issue, particularly in your must-win state of Pennsylvania.
Sure.
Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
Everybody clear? Okay, good.
In 2019, I believe, at a town hall, you said, you were asked, would you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking on your first day in office? And you said, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So yes. So it changed in that campaign?
In 2020, I made very clear where I stand. We are in 2024, and I've not changed that position, nor will I going forward. I kept my word, and I will keep my word.
Well, you kept your word for like a year. Maybe less, right? 2019, you said one thing. 2020, you decided to double back, so you weren't keeping your word. But now you're keeping your word, and you can take that to the bank. Okay. This is what made it to air, by the way. This is pre-recorded. This is pre-recorded. We got 18 minutes of it. They said the rumor is that there's 41 minutes of tape somewhere. They won't release the transcripts because the word is it was that bad. And this is what made it to air. Yikes. Yikes, yikes, yikes. It's not a good look. It's not a good look at all, Kamala. Kamala, it's not a good look. Jeez. All right, so she's keeping her word. Dana Bash then lobs a softball, and she's like, okay, but like, what made you change your mind on the fracking ban, right? Like, positions evolve. Give us the backstory, explain it to the American people in a way that we can really digest it and understand your thought process.
What made you change that position at the time?
Well, let's be clear. My values have not changed.
Ah, yikes. Let's keep her word on that for sure.
I believe it is very important that we take seriously what we must do to guard against what is a clear crisis in terms of the climate. Oh. And to do that, we can do what we have accomplished thus far.
It's a word salad. You're going to fill up. You're going to fill up on the salad bar, I'm telling you what.
The Inflation Reduction Act, what we have done to invest, by my calculation, over probably $1 trillion over the next 10 years, investing in a clean energy economy. What we've already done, creating over 300,000 new clean energy jobs. That tells me, from my experience as vice president, we can do it without banning fracking.
We can do it without banning fracking. We've created all these jobs. This is the woman who's vice president of the same administration that spent $7.5 billion to install 8 electric vehicle charging stations. Trust her. It's going to be fine. Don't worry. Don't worry how they're going to pay for it. Don't worry about the stuff. Focus on the joy. Focus on the hope. It's unbelievable, but this is what we have. They couldn't find anybody else? I guess not. Jeez. And then she gives her another softball to say, okay, but seriously, like, was there a policy or data that changed your mind on fracking? Like, give me something, anything.
Was there some policy or scientific data that you saw that you said, oh, okay, I get it now?
What I have seen is that we can grow and we can increase a thriving clean energy economy without banning fracking.
So no, you haven't seen any new data, but I think she has. She just doesn't want to tell you it's polling data. It's 3:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
As Americans take to the highways for the holiday weekend, there is a little bit better news for drivers. California, with its green energy initiative, introducing a first for America today. Is it good or bad? Well, we've also got a sad story of a handicapped person struck and killed while trying to cross a busy Nashville roadway. We'll have those stories at 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Jay. It's 3:55 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. I'm filling in for Brian Wilson today. Very excited. I fell in love listening to this station when I first moved to Nashville, listening to Afternoon Drive with Uncle Phil, Phil Valentine. And then I would listen to Brian in the morning as I would take my kids to work and take my kids to school and then go to work. And it's kind of full circle to be able to fill in and host here. If you're unfamiliar with me, my name is Chris Hand. I do host 9 to noon. And I appreciate you joining us this afternoon. On the way in about 10 minutes, Pastor John Amanchukwu is going to be joining us. He is a fantastic guy. He goes around the country to different school board meetings and he decides to read them the books that shouldn't be in kids' libraries. And as you can imagine, people get very uncomfortable when he comes in and reads banned books. You can understand why. they're faced with the reality that they're pushing filth or that they're doing a disservice to the children that they're supposed to be helping. On Tuesday, he went to Baltimore, Maryland, and they decided to declare a citywide emergency because he showed up to a school board meeting because he wanted to talk to them about how it's one of the most expensive school districts to educate a student, yet they fail at unbelievable levels. Right around 12% proficiency in math when you graduate from a Baltimore City high school. Is that okay? It's not okay with me. It's not okay with Pastor John Amanchukwu. So he's going to be joining us to talk about that. And in the meantime, I get a text over here from our friend Dan Mandis. I'm surprised he's still awake. Usually he's tucked in. Oh, it's Friday night. It's Friday. So another story out of Maryland. The governor, Wes Moore, he had been claiming that he had received a Bronze Star during his service. And it had been repeated, and it was repeated by interviewers without correction from him or his staff. And he's now saying that he did not. He did not receive a Bronze Star. What's it with Democrats and stolen valor? It's just a strange coincidence that this always seems to happen with these Democrats. Tim Walz was asked about stolen valor during the interview on CNN. That's a question that everybody wanted to ask Walz about, but they asked it in a way that he didn't really have to answer the question.
Governor Walz, the country is just starting to get to know you. I want to ask you a question about how you've described your service in the National Guard. You said that you carried weapons in war, but you have never deployed actually in a war zone. A campaign official said that you misspoke. Did you?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud. I've done 24 years of wearing the uniform of this country. Equally proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor. My record speaks for itself, but I think people are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and
I'm just a Midwestern folksy dude. It's like, but about the stolen valor, and they don't ask about him claiming to be a command sergeant major. They don't ask about him abandoning his troops when he found out they were going to Iraq. They ask him about that one clip that we've played over and over and over here on WTN. Weird. We'll get into more of the interview with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz on CNN on the way. And John Amanchukwu is joining us at 4:05. It's Chris Hand in for Brian Wilson on The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good afternoon. It's 4 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got scattered rain showers in the area. Well, the rain that was promised, it's here. We're at 78 degrees on Music Row. A complete forecast and a traffic report are upcoming. Well, as Americans prepare to hit the road for this long Labor Day weekend, a little bit of good news for drivers. Here's ABC's business correspondent, Alexis Christoforous.
But the good news here is if you are taking to the road for Labor Day weekend, it's going to cost you less to fill up your tank. Gas now at $3.35 a gallon. That's about 50 cents below where it was last year. So that's some good news for drivers.
Well, as a matter of perspective, however, according to GasBuddy.com, the national average for gasoline on Labor Day during Donald Trump's last year in office was $2.22 per gallon, or $1.13 per gallon cheaper than today's national average. California Governor Gavin Newsom today celebrated the launch of the first-in-the-nation hydrogen hub in Oakland. It's part of the Biden administration's investment from the Infrastructure Act. Newsom praising the work, saying it will move the whole country forward to a greener future.
It was about common sense, clean air, clean water. It was about a mindset of sustainability, not a situational mindset. It wasn't about extraction. It was, again, about going far, and it was about going far together.
Back here in Nashville, a wheelchair-bound woman was struck and killed last night while trying to cross a busy street, according to police. Metro Police say the 56-year-old woman was struck just before 8 p.m. on Lebanon Road near Tyler Drive, and she was not in a crosswalk. Investigators say the driver of a Subaru Outback, he was heading east on Lebanon Pike when the woman was hit. She was taken to a nearby hospital where she died. Her identity is yet to be released. Police say there's no evidence of impairment at the scene, but the investigation continues. And finally, here in Nashville, Fox 17 News reports a man has been arrested in conjunction with the 2023 road rage shooting on I-440 that targeted a Davidson County judge. Metro Police took 23-year-old David Bush into custody today. Police say he's facing multiple charges, including attempted murder. Investigators say the shooting targeted a car that was driven by Chancery Court Judge Aisha Miles. Miles, you may recall, is the judge who has been involved in the Covenant Shooter documents case. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
4:06 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, filling in for Brian Wilson today. Very blessed to be able to do it. If you don't know who I am, you can find me 9 to 12 here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And I have quite a few friends that call into the show, but none are quite like this guy. And when I had an opportunity to step into the big seat here on the drive, I knew that I wanted to introduce this audience to Pastor John Amanchukwu. Pastor John, how we doing, man?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on, Chris.
Hey, I'm glad that you could make it, because I'm looking on the internet last night and I see these videos popping up and these reels going a little bit viral. You caused a citywide emergency in Baltimore, Pastor John, and I wanted to give you the floor to apologize to the city of Baltimore and really clear the air.
That's funny. We've all watched the movies of Godzilla and King Kong. Man, they had more cops to come out there to stop me than those movies. You know, it really makes no sense. I went to the Baltimore City Public School System to address their school board about their perfunctory test scores. You have to sign up an hour before the school board meeting. The school board meeting started at 5:30, so I signed up at 4:30. Within 30 minutes of being in that room, at the school board meeting, I started to notice that people were walking in and out, that they were text messaging back and forth. People were concerned. People started staring at me. Law enforcement started staring at me, the school board chairman, the people who were on the school board as well. And I knew what was going on. They recognized that, hey, oh my goodness, the book banning pastor, that's my label from the left-leaning media. They recognized that I was present, so they wanted to find a way to shut me down. And so the board chair says, hey, we have to go into recess before we start the public comments. After doing so, they come back in with the support of Baltimore PD, and they say we have a citywide emergency, Chris, and that they're going to have to shut down the school board meeting and adjourn. And so I caused one man, a black Christian conservative pastor, caused a citywide emergency. Now, keep in mind, Baltimore has a black governor, a black mayor, a predominantly black school board, and a significant amount of black cops. But when a black Christian conservative pastor comes to town, the board, in synergy with the police department, fabricates an emergency just to rob me of my freedom of speech. It's evil.
It's unbelievable. And I think what everybody wants to know is, what were you going to say to the school board? What were you going to call them on? Because I understand how expensive it is for a child to go to school in Baltimore, and I understand how poor the test scores are. What was the case that you were going to make to them, Pastor?
You know, each student costs about $21,000 a year, okay? In Baltimore City Public Schools, 90% of students are not proficient in math. Now, keep in mind, they have a CEO of schools that makes $479,000 a year.
Of course.
Nearly $500,000. But the kids can't do basic math on grade level. 80% of elementary students are not proficient in English, and they have a 70% rate for their graduation rate. I mean, it's awful.
John,
23.
If I was doing a job and only 70% of it got done, how long would they keep me employed?
You would be fired immediately. You know, you wouldn't have a job. No one in America could keep their job unless you're in sadly, a black-run city that's economically disadvantaged, that purports that the white man is holding them down, so therefore we have to prop up black leadership. But that's the definition of DEI. I believe that the board chair, along with the CEO of Baltimore Schools, they're DEI hires. They're not getting the job done. It's perfunctory. In 23 Baltimore City schools, there were 0 students who tested proficient in math. Among the list of 23 schools, there are 10 high schools, 8 elementary schools, 3 middle and high schools, and 2 elementary and middle schools. Exactly 2,000 students in total took the state math test at these schools, and no one could do math at grade level.
That sounds like it's a crime. It should be a crime. That should be a crime.
Chris, you're right. It should be a crime, and it is a crime. Now, we all know this. If you can't properly pass an end of grade test by third grade, that's how the prison system knows how to create more space in the prison world, right? And so we know this, that if these kids can't read and do basic math and write, then they're going to be criminals. They're going to be doing petty theft and breaking and entering. They're going to be the individuals that law enforcement have to go and arrest. And keep in mind, they brought about 8 cops there. Now, the cops had kids in the same school system. And so the cops were being weaponized against me, but also being weaponized against their own children. You would think that these cops would say, hey, I'm not going to bother that guy because he's only coming to challenge the board and force them to do better.
Yeah, and I was watching the video where you were interacting with those police officers, and you said to them pretty plainly, guys, if we're not educating these kids, you're going to be dealing with them on these streets.
That's right.
Where are the men? Where are the men in Baltimore saying enough is enough of this?
Well, you got to keep in mind, 80% of the homes in Baltimore are led by a single parent. That's the issue, Chris. 80% of the homes, and that's a general theme across the nation when it comes to the black community.
It's honestly heartbreaking to hear that 8 out of 10 kids have a single parent home.
That's right. And that is the issue. So goes the father, so goes the home, which is why I'm leading a national campaign to speak out at these school board meetings, because part of the issues in Baltimore, yes, is to test scores, but it's also the fact that Democrat policies have intentionally destroyed the black community. Lyndon B. Johnson said that he would have blacks voting for the Democrat Party for the next 200 years. He actually used the N-word when he said that.
Yeah, I was going to say, he didn't say it as nice as you said it, John.
Hey, I'm trying to keep it sanitized. I know you're hosting someone else's show. I don't want you to get bad ratings there, all right?
You'll get me in trouble on my own show, not on somebody else's show. I appreciate it.
That's right. And so that's the main problem. You know, Lyndon B. Johnson and the Democrats made it popular to incentivize the single parent families. So they found a creative way to remove the black man from the home and replace him for a $300 to $400 check. And so out goes daddy, but in comes the government cheese and government support. And so many of these teachers go to school having to be combative with students. So the inmates are running the asylum, and the teachers are afraid to correct these children because they know at the end of the day that their jobs are in jeopardy if they truly correct them. Man, things need to change in Baltimore. Hear me. Just because black people are in power in a given era doesn't mean that power is translated to black people. They have a black governor. Keep in mind, Wes Moore, black man. They have a black mayor in Baltimore. The school board is predominantly black. The cops, the law enforcement, they were predominantly black. But they have a CEO of schools who is black that leads an equity office. For what? What do you need equity for when everyone's black? No one's putting you back. I mean, the white people need an equity office now, right? I'm lobbying. I want to start a campaign to help Europeans, to help white people get a equity office in Baltimore. Who wants to join my campaign, right?
The things that you're allowed to say that I would be in trouble for saying, right? Hey, here's an idea, though. Here's an idea that I have, and you tell me what you think about it. I think what we're missing is actual, more black leadership. And I think that if we elect a black female president, then everything will be fixed. Right?
We'll see, man. I tell you what, today must be Friday. You're having a good time, man. Because for you to say that, what did they put in your coffee this morning, man? Listen, Kamala Harris would be a terrible tragedy upon American civilization if she ever makes it into the Oval Office. This woman has been dodging the legacy media. I mean, she's dodging MSNBC and CNN for the past over 30 days, and she won't do an interview. And she just recently did one, and she had to bring Tampon Timmy alongside her to do it.
You know what I heard is that 41 minutes was the runtime on the film. 18 minutes made it to air. I want to see what hit the editing room floor, because if you watch the interview, what they put out there, it didn't seem like they were sending their best.
No, not at all. She has nothing to offer the American people. The only thing that she's championing, number one, is to kill more babies, right?
Yep.
That's why they had the abortion mobile outside of the DNC, and which was a travesty. Over 100 babies lost their life.
Heartbreaking.
And so in order to push the agenda of Democrats, someone has to die, in particular, harmless babies. I mean, we, as Americans, we should be mourning that tragedy. We have become barbaric. Because of our American ignorance and arrogance, it has become popular to say that you are the candidate that wants to kill innocent life. This is evil.
No, you're absolutely right. We're talking with Pastor John Amanchukwu. He goes by @RevWooTruth on Twitter and Instagram. You got to follow him for all of his videos. He's the book banning pastor. I tell this story about when I was standing with you at Believers Summit, and it was me, you, our friend Topher, and Pastor Alan Jackson from World Outreach Church. And you're passing around this book that is in so many kids' schools, and it's just graphic pornography. And I've never felt more uncomfortable in my life. And I remember thinking to myself, this is what we need to fight against, and how grateful I am to have somebody like you out there that is fighting against this.
Hey, thank you for that, Chris. It really means a lot, man. I'm fighting in the position that God has granted me, and you're doing the same thing. You know, we're equally important in this movement. But those who are listening, if you're sitting on the sidelines and doing nothing, just know that if Kamala Harris gets into office, our freedoms, our liberties, this constitutional republic that we want to protect, it's gone.
Yep.
It's lost. Our kids' future is gone. Our grandkids' future, it is gone, because communists are going to rule. Now more than ever, you have to get off that seat of indifference, and you have to move from that gray area and pick a side. You may not always agree with President Trump's personality, but policy matters, and blacks thrived under Donald Trump.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
We need to put that into proper perspective. However, if you want to find out more about my national campaign and receive some free resources from me on how to reclaim schools and communities, go to iknowgod.us. That is iknowgod.us. And Chris, I have a documentary that's going to come out on October 3rd. All right?
Yes, sir.
I'll be advertising that next week. I'll have the website up and running with the main trailer and how people can support. But this documentary is going to blow your socks off. We're going to show Americans how the American education system has lost its decency. We've gone from prayer, from school-sponsored prayer in the public school system in 1962, now to porn being placed on bookshelves and into curriculums. We've strayed so far.
I'm looking forward to that documentary, Pastor John, and I do have to tell you, my wife, she has a Bible study every week, and she said all the ladies at Bible study were very excited when they heard that you were coming on the show. You got a lot of fans here in Middle Tennessee.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that.
And I also got to tell you, I sometimes drop threats to little school boards on the air, and I'll let them know, hey, I heard Pastor John might be coming this way. You might want to get those books out.
Well, you know what? I'll be honest with you. I'm coming to Murfreesboro, Tennessee in October.
Let's go.
Speak at Pastor Allen's church. But I do plan on going to a school board meeting in Tennessee. I won't say exactly where, but I am coming this year. So if you support gender theory, queer theory, and critical race theory, you might as well tremble because I'm coming. And when we come, we're coming to speak the truth and expose what is going on.
I love to hear it. Pastor John, you know you're welcome in studio when you come to town. You're welcome at my house for dinner, whatever you need, man. You know I got you.
Thank you, brother. That means a lot. Let's do it.
All right. Pastor John Amanchukwu at RevWooTruth on Instagram and Twitter. One of the good ones. It's 421 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Mount Juliet police have made an arrest in a string of catalytic converter thefts. We'll have that story as well as today's closing money news. It all comes up at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Jay Harper. It's 425 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Thank you for tuning in. I'm filling in for Brian Wilson today. It's my first time filling in an afternoon drive. This is a cozy shift. You guys got a cozy shift.
Cozy?
Yeah, it's cozy in here.
In that room, particularly? Is that what you're... Oh, I never go in there. So
it's a cozy shift. No, I want to say thank you to Brian Wilson for letting me fill in for him. If you don't know who I am, I do host 9 to 12 here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I understand just by the very nature that you're listening to a conservative radio station that you may work during the day, and as it would happen, I work during the day too, so our schedules may not align. But you can always find the highlights from my show on the podcast page on Apple and Spotify and on the 99.7 WTN app. You can take me into your office with the iHeartRadio app or the TuneIn app, and you can find me off air on Instagram, Twitter, and True Social at Chris Hand on Air. Hit the follow button. I will follow back. Thank you to Pastor John Amanchukwu for jumping on the show. I'm very excited for him to be coming to Murfreesboro to speak at World Outreach Church come October. And all those school boards out there, if you got books in your libraries that you wouldn't want Pastor John to know about, I'd get him out. I'd get him out quick. Just letting you know. As we continue, we're going to kind of pivot back to national politics 2024. And I want to bring up some poll numbers. I know people like the polls. Trump is now favored to win 2024 in a new Nate Silver forecast. Nate Silver of 538. It's crazy, this jump. On August 14th, the Nate Silver 538 forecast had Harris at 56.7, Trump at 42.7. So Harris with just a monumental lead. As of yesterday, the new polling has dropped, and it has Trump up 52.4% to Harris's 47.3. Quite the swing, and it kind of validates what a guy by the name of Mark Halpern has been saying. Mark Halpern is the former ABC political director, and if you know anything about ABC and you listen to what Mark is about to say, you'll understand why he's the former political director over there at ABC, because he was talking about polls just a few days ago saying, guys, don't believe everything you're seeing in the form of Harris having such a monumental lead, because that's going to change, and that's not actually representing what's happening at ground level.
Public polling already, there's more coming, and there's some private polling that suggests that nationally in the battleground states, she's not ahead. She might be ahead on paper, but well within the margin of error. And there's some battleground states now where I think Donald Trump's on this trajectory is going to be ahead. And it may be, regardless of what happens in the interview, and regardless what happens in the debate, it may be that by the middle of September, when things have calmed down, when the Trump campaign have had time to prey on some of the weaknesses that I suggested, that he's ahead in all the Sun Belt states and ahead in Pennsylvania and competitive in Michigan and Wisconsin, which would be roughly where Joe Biden was before the debate, with a single path to 270 electoral votes, the 3 Great Lakes states and Nebraska too. And that would be a scary position for the Democratic Party to be in from mid-September through Election Day.
Yeah, well, it seems like it's already becoming a scary position for the Democrats to be in, and we're not out of August yet. The Nate Silver 538 forecast has Trump up in Pennsylvania, 52-48. Trump up in Nevada, 52-48. Trump up in Arizona, 60-40, which is just wild. Up in Georgia, 63-37. And up in North Carolina, 65-35. Now, they still have him down in Wisconsin, down in Michigan. And where was Donald Trump yesterday? Wisconsin and Michigan. He's working to correct those numbers. So we'll see what happens. On the way, Phone Your FARB Friday, a drive favorite. It's Chris Hand filling in for Brian Wilson on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good afternoon. It's 4:30. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got some rain in the area and 79 degrees. A complete forecast and another traffic report are coming up. The Mount Juliet Police Department has apprehended a suspect they believe to be responsible for a string of catalytic converter thefts in western Wilson County. In a press release today, police said the thefts have been going on for over a month and a half now. Police reportedly connected Robert Hartzell, 50, to the crimes after he was pulled over for a seatbelt violation on Lebanon Road in Mount Juliet yesterday. Well, evidence discovered in that traffic stop led police to suspect that Hartzell may have been involved in the thefts. Police also report that during the investigation, Hartzell confessed to multiple catalytic converter thefts in the area. We now turn to today's closing money news. Today, we have Michelle Frenzen.
From ABC News, Wall Street now. A back and forth day on Wall Street ends with some gains. Markets closed out a fourth straight winning month. The Dow up 228 points. The S&P added 56, and the Nasdaq gained 197 points. Tech stocks led the market. Marvell Technology climbed almost 9% after its latest quarterly results hit Wall Street targets. A new government report shows inflation remained low last month. The core personal consumption expenditures index, the Federal Reserve's preferred measure of inflation, rose 0.2% from June to July, in line with Wall Street expectations. It confirms price increases are cooling. Inflation is down in Europe, meaning its central bank might also cut interest rates next month. The Teamsters union that represents workers at both Canada's largest freight railroads has filed the lawsuit it promised, challenging the order that forces employees back to work.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
437 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Filling in for Brian Wilson. Welcome into the drive. And it is Phone Your FARB Friday. So if you got a burr in your bonnet or a bee in your saddle, I think that's how it goes. You can jump
Something
in.
like that,
It's I was close, right?
Yeah.
I am just the fill-in. You can call in. Anything goes. 615-737-9986. What's your take on the Kamala Harris interview? Were you were a huge fan? Do you think we'll have anybody call in and say that they actually enjoyed the Kamala Harris interview?
Oh, I'm sure they're going to line up.
You think? I'm waiting for Kamala fans to come on in. 615-737-9986. Stephen in Paris, you're up first on Phone Your FARB Friday. What's up, Steve? It's Chris Hand.
My man, what's up, man? Welcome back. Good to hear you in the evening, too. I'm on the drive as well. Thanks, man.
How we doing? What do you got?
Good, man. Hey, I just want to say thank you for bringing on Pastor John. That was very refreshing, and I wish we had more guys like him out helping the communities that are in need right now. I'm not trying to preach. I just want everybody to realize that God has always sent a messenger throughout time and throughout stories of the Bible, versus during like Sodom and Gomorrah and there's many different stories where he sends a messenger to warn everybody because the sin is so thick and it's destroying the goodwill of the people that he has to destroy it. And I think by Trump being out here telling us all this election coming up is the most important election in this country's history. He's not just saying that to get elected. A lot of people are not seeing it, man. When I look at what party is more Christ-like, there's no question to me. There's no question which way you have to vote. People got to realize there's no middle ground anymore. There's no stopping and smelling the roses. There's no shaking hands. You either are Christ-like or you're not. When you're voting, you may think it's political, but really it's not. That's the way I see it. That's the way it is. So I just hope everybody keeps an open mind to that. And, we'll just have to play it by ear.
Yeah.
But, it was good to hear from your man there, man.
Hey,
and,
he's such a good guy, and I'm looking forward to him speaking
dude, he covered it.
I'm looking forward to him speaking at World Outreach Church in October. I can't wait for them to announce that date because that's going to be a must-see. And
brother.
If I was a school board, hey, appreciate you. If I was a school board, I'd be shaking in my boots with Rev Wu Truth possibly coming through. One of the greatest guys I know. So I love that he was able to come on and join the show. Now, I will say this. Topher is another guy that I've had on the show a few times, 9 to 12. And that's where I normally host when I'm not filling in. And he said it like this, especially, people get rubbed the wrong way by Donald Trump's personality or, oh, he's not a Christian or he's not a sinner. And Topher said, listen, if your kid needs brain surgery and the top 10 doctors have had some form of adultery in the past, the best doctor in the world is he had committed adultery in the past. But the number 11 or 12th good doctor, totally clean, good to go. Who would you choose? Well, you choose the best doctor. And the same thing needs to be here. We need to choose the best leader. Sins be damned. We need to pull behind Trump and get him elected for the good of the nation. For the good of the nation. Casey in Columbia, you're next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name's Chris Hand. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Chris.
What do you want to talk about today?
Well, I called in your conversation with Reverend John, actually.
Yes, sir.
Sparked my curiosity about the abortions done outside the DNC, over 100 abortions. I'm wondering what the racial makeup, how that breaks out. I know that at one point in Chicago, 70% of abortions were blacks. And I'm wondering just how it broke out for that 100, that unfortunately the 100 children that lost their lives.
I'm curious about that too. Margaret Sanger was a well-known eugenicist, right? And she started Planned Parenthood to get rid of the lesser of the races. That was one of the things that she wanted to do, and it's sad. It's absolutely sad. They would much rather abortion just be on demand, post birth if that's what you want. And I've read a stat one time in New York City, if you see a pregnant woman on a train, she's actually more likely to be heading to an abortion clinic than she is to be heading to a hospital to give birth. It's sad. I think as a nation, we need a change of heart. Now, at the same time, I do think that we didn't get here overnight, right? We didn't come to this point in this country where abortion is so prevalent overnight. It happened incrementally, right? And as we're incrementally going backwards, and you see it with Roe v. Wade and Dobbs, we need to be able to accept the small wins on the way to the greater goal. A lot of times it's, no, you're not pro-life enough. And it's like, but we're putting pieces in place to get to our ultimate goal. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen overnight.
It isn't. And that's another reason why we've got to elect President Trump.
Yes, sir. We need good judges, constitutionalists, and the like. You know, if Harris gets in, there's going to be another leftist Supreme Court justice that's not going to make our lives any better.
Well, I hope that the black community as a whole are paying attention to what's going on and are listening to the people like Pastor John. The Democrat Party has always been the racist party.
Yep.
And they've tried to paint, as usual, anything that the Democrat Party says that the Republican Party is doing, they're saying it because they're the ones doing it.
Yep, you're absolutely right.
They're always the racists. Everything they accuse us of, they're usually already doing it.
Yeah, Casey, it's called projection. I appreciate the call, man. William in Nashville wants to talk about the Kamala interview. Kamala, what's up, William?
Hello. Sure, appreciate everything you do. I just wanted to ask a question and see what your thoughts are. Obviously, we can see, based on what happened last night, why they don't want Kamala in front of a microphone, especially where she has to answer questions. It is obvious to most of us, conservatives at least, that she is just not qualified. So the question is, I mean, how do we tip the scale with the independent voters, especially those 18 to 30 years old who don't, I mean, with all due respect, they don't necessarily listen to conservative radio.
Yeah.
I hope we can put people like Pastor John and et cetera out there in the social media platform.
Yep.
So that he can help tip the scale.
Well, I'll say this, William. We are. John's all over YouTube and Twitter and Instagram. There's a host of conservative voices out there spreading these messages to younger audiences, and we're attracting those independents and those middle of the road guys, the moderates, when we bring people into our tent like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard. We're saying that we can agree on bigger issues like censorship and chronic health and fight for the greater good on these things and still publicly disagree about other things. We're building that team of rivals, so I think we are bringing those people in. And furthermore, when you're trying to reach a younger audience, I just want to say, and I appreciate your call, William, when we're trying to reach a younger audience, we're doing it. We're doing it nonstop. You know, Kamala had her big interview on CNN, but Trump did an hour with Theo Vaughn, who's a comedian. The guest before Donald Trump on that podcast was Bernie Sanders. So you want to reach an audience of people that is diverse in thought, you got to go to those places. Donald Trump did 2 hours and 3 minutes with Elon Musk. 27 million people tuned in live, and 72% of those were under 34. You want to reach younger voters? We are. He did an hour and 11 minutes on Sean Ryan, 2.5 million views. Then from there, these interviews are clipped up into digestible, short format, 1-minute videos that you'll see on Instagram, you'll see on Twitter, you'll see on TikTok, and they're repurposed ad nauseum. You know, RFK Jr., he's been clipped a bunch of times from his interview with Tucker Carlson. That's reaching a younger audience. 100%. So I think if you're worried about us reaching a younger audience, I wouldn't even worry about it, to be perfectly honest with you. I think that not only are we reaching a younger audience, we're excelling at reaching a younger audience. And we're doing it at a rate that the Democrats can't keep up with. Kamala Harris has to pay online influencers to do TikTok dances for her. People talk about Trump's policy for free. They do it because they believe in it. Kamala Harris has to pay people to show up to her rallies. At the rally that she had in Savannah the other day, they quite literally admitted on a news station in Savannah that they had to bus people from Atlanta to Savannah, Georgia, 4 hours to fill that stadium. They're paying people to go. They're paying people to attend. They're paying people to post. The same is not happening on our side. The difference is that our engagement online is organic. It's not boosted. It's not advertised. It's just raw and real. Kamala Harris has 175 digital online staffers that they use to combat what they quote as bad press or misinformation about Kamala online. And 175 people might not sound like a lot, but I can assure you it's very easy for one person to run 100 sock puppet accounts. And what a sock puppet account is, it's a fake social media profile. So if you go and post something negative about Kamala, well then you get 5 replies from the same person using different accounts to bash you. And it makes it seem like there's this huge consensus of people against you, but it's really all fabricated. And I did this myself after the DNC, after her speech. I kind of did a little test. I gave a critique of Kamala's speech and I mentioned Kamala's name. And then I gave a critique of Kamala's speech and I didn't mention her name or the DNC. So it's essentially unsearchable if you're looking for Kamala Harris in the search tab. Guess which one got more engagement? Well, the one with her name. Because these people are out there, they're paid to do it. It's crazy. Donna in Rhode Island. Donna, welcome to The Drive with Brian Wilson. I'm Chris Hand. We got about a minute left. What do you got, Donna?
Well, I just want to say how much I enjoy Super Talk Radio due to Dan Mandis filling in for Gary McNamara and Eric Harley on Red Eye Radio.
Yep.
Which I was a fan of, not having conservative radio here in Rhode Island. Surprise, surprise.
Well, no, you guys, you guys got Howie Carr up the road. It could be worse.
Well, I
grew up in Lowell, Massachusetts, Donna, so I know all about some Howie Carr. I always say my dad would force me to listen to him, and thank God he did.
You're right. I can't get it on my radio, though, to tell you the truth. My neighbor listens to somebody, I'm not sure who, but he has different equipment than I do, too. So, but I just want to say thank you, Dan Mandis, for tuning me into WWTN 99.7. And I enjoy his show, your show, Matt's show, Brian's show, and then on to Mark Levin, and I am a great fan of Ben Shapiro also.
Donna, we're gonna have to clip this and run it as a promo for how great we are. You understand that, right? It's your voice saying that is going to be run in perpetuity on the station.
I know, but it was a pleasure, and I pray every day that it's God's will that Donald Trump be our next president.
Amen. Donna, I appreciate you calling in. I appreciate you listening. I'm so glad you found us. My name is Chris Hand. I'm filling in for Brian Wilson. If you're unfamiliar with me, you can keep up with me off air at Chris Hand on air on Twitter, True Social, and Instagram. I usually host 9 to 12, but I'm hosting for Brian Wilson today on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
A doctor charged in the death of actor Matthew Perry changes his plea. The Labor Day rush, the travel rush is on, as I'm sure you know. You may be sitting in it. Drivers have a little bit of better news compared to last Labor Day. We'll get to those stories and more coming up at 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Appreciate it, Jay Harper. It's 4:55 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand, filling in for Brian Wilson on the drive. I usually work 9 to 12, but they roped me into pulling a double today, and I'm glad to be a part of it with you. As you head into your Labor Day weekend, it's going to be an expensive Labor Day. You know, Kamala wants you to forget, but she's still in charge, and they haven't done anything to fix the inflation or the prices. It's pretty bad. It's actually going to be the most expensive Labor Day in history, I heard, which is crazy because I feel like we keep hearing that. Like every holiday the past 3 years under Biden Harris, it's like, this is going to be the most expensive one yet till next year. She didn't answer any of those questions about the prices or how we got there or how she plans to fix it really during the interview on CNN last night. And CNN, they're even admitting in their post-interview coverage the challenge is that she's still in the administration.
Challenge, of course, for Vice President Harris is that she's actually in the administration at the moment. So she is going to have to tighten how she explains balancing the green economy with old economy jobs that you don't want to go away. She has to explain a little bit better how she's going to approach the border issue and why it took 3 years to implement that executive order. What she has on her side is that she's vice president.
Well, she has it on her side, but it's also, kind of like sticking in the side there because she's trying to run away from it. It's just, you gotta rip it out. Unbelievable. The interview was a bit of a train wreck. I don't know if you saw it. We watched it all here, all the hosts. It's an occupational hazard. It was in a dimly lit, looked like an empty Denny's, where you had Tim Walz towering over her and Dana Bash towering over her, and Kamala Harris shrinked up in her seat, looking rather small, awkward, puffy. She looked like she had been drinking. I say this from knowing quite a few people with drinking problems over the course of my life, and you see that and you kind of pick up on it really quickly. The bags under the eyes, the droopy face, just the not like an overweight puffy, but just like you've been drinking a lot puffy. Maybe she was out smoozing and boozing with donors, but she didn't look good. She didn't look good, not one bit, and she didn't really speak that well during the interview. She didn't have anything to say about a policy that changed her mind on fracking or data that changed her mind on fracking. She didn't really have much to say about anything. She was asked about the southern border.
I was a little bit surprised. People might...
Oh, wrong clip. Sorry. I got a lot of clips to get to. It is this one right here.
Our issue, big one, is immigration. As Vice President, you were tasked with addressing the root causes of migration in southern countries and
northern part of Central America.
The northern part of Central America that affects the southern border of the U.S. During the Biden-Harris administration, there were record numbers of illegal border crossings. Why did the Biden-Harris administration wait 3.5 years to implement sweeping asylum restrictions?
Well, first of all, the root causes work that I did as vice president, that I was asked to do by the president, has actually resulted in a number of benefits, including historic investments by American businesses in that region.
Oh, so we had a record number of crossings, and don't worry, it actually helped us ship jobs out of the country. Weird flex, but that's Kamala Harris. It's 4:59 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good afternoon. It's 5 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got a mostly cloudy sky. There are showers in the area. We're back up a little bit to 82 degrees. The forecast and the traffic report are coming up. One of the doctors charged in connection with actor Matthew Perry's death appeared before a federal judge in Los Angeles today after reaching a plea deal with prosecutors. Magistrate Judge Gene Rosenbluth told Dr. Mark Chavez that he could remain free on bond with restrictions, including turning over his passport and not working as a doctor. Defense attorney Matt Benninger says that Chavez signed an agreement to plead guilty to conspiring to distribute ketamine. Chavez did not enter a guilty plea today. His attorney says that'll come at a future hearing.
He's trying to do everything in his power to right the wrong that happened here. He didn't accept responsibility today, but only because it wasn't on calendar. We're going to be setting a change of plea in the next few weeks, and so that'll happen here shortly once I contact the court.
The historic travel season this summer coming to a close this Labor Day weekend. The TSA says it expects more than 17 million people to pass through airport security in the period between yesterday and this coming Wednesday. That's up 8.5% from last year. Today is expected to be the busiest day at airports. These travelers, they were at Bradley International Airport in Connecticut, and they say they made sure to give themselves all kinds of extra time.
Travel's been good, knock on wood. We've been very fortunate. We got emails last night to come here about an hour and a half to 2 hours early.
My flight was delayed in Washington for like 5 hours, and I had to stay there until now. I'm very tired.
And the weather was a problem?
Yes, there was, I guess there was lightning.
Well, as Americans prepare to hit the road by getting behind the wheel of a vehicle for the Labor Day weekend, there is a little bit of good news for drivers. Here's ABC's business correspondent, Alexis Christoforous.
But the good news here is if you are taking to the road for Labor Day weekend, it's going to cost you less to fill up your tank. Gas now at $3.35 a gallon. That's about 50 cents below where it was last year. So that's some good news for drivers.
Well, as a bit of perspective, though, according to GasBuddy.com, the national average for gasoline on Labor Day during Donald Trump's last year in office was $2.22 per gallon, or $1.13 per gallon cheaper than today's national average. Back here in Nashville, Fox 17 News reports a man has been arrested in connection with the 2023 road rage shooting on I-440 that targeted a Davidson County judge. Metro Police took 23-year-old David Bush into custody this afternoon. Police say he's facing multiple charges, including attempted murder. Police say the shooting targeted a driver, a car driven by Chancery Court Judge Aisha Miles. Miles, you may recall, is the judge who's been involved in the Covenant Shooter documents case. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections. No lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
.507 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? If you're just getting out of work, you're heading into your Labor Day weekend, you're probably thinking, who's this guy? My name is Chris Hand. I normally do 9 to 12, but today I'm pulling a bit of a double and filling in for Brian, getting you home for the Labor Day festivities. It's going to be the most expensive Labor Day ever. Well, since last year's, I think that one was the most expensive Labor Day ever, since the since the one 2 years ago, and don't worry about it because next year is probably going to be a little bit pricier. And if Kamala Harris wins, the year after that is absolutely going to be pricier. The big conversation today is the interview. Oh, the interview. Everybody was downright giddy that she was finally going to do an interview, and then we found out, well, it's going to be pre-recorded. All right, strike one. And then we found out it's going to be on CNN with Dana Bash. Strike two. And then we found out that she was bringing her emotional support pal, Tim Walz. Strike three. And the rumors right now are that 41 minutes was recorded, yet only 18 minutes made it to air. Yikes. So what did they edit out? I think that's what we all really want to see, and hopefully there's a patriot in the back at CNN that can leak some of that footage. I highly doubt it. But it's wild that it took so long to get her here. Wild. And the interview was so short with what they aired, they actually stretched for time during the interview, airing campaign footage and videos of her on the campaign trail for fluff. It was embarrassing to say the least. So she lasted 41 minutes, 18 minutes made it to air. Donald Trump is sitting out there doing interviews hour after hour, every day, after day after day. He's giving interviews all the time. He was giving interviews today. But we had to wait so long. Meanwhile, Biden is still on vacation. That checks out. That tracks. Not sure we need him. We know he's not in charge anyway. And we're seeing Trump is up in a lot of polls. A lot of polls. Nate Silver with 538 has him forecasted to win the election. A new Reuters poll reports in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, North Carolina, Michigan, and Nevada. Trump has a 45-43 lead over Harris among registered voters. Now, for me, it's like I like the polls when I like them, and I disregard them when I don't think that they're being accurate. I don't put a lot into polling. I do think that it's important to know the numbers and look at the numbers, but I'd be worried if I was the Harris campaign. They got absolutely no bump from the DNC. The energy was sucked out of the room come Friday. Her speech was Thursday, and on Friday, with the endorsement from RFK, there was no more energy in the room. And then we get this interview. Yikes. And she's spending a lot of money. She spent $47 million more than Trump on a digital campaign in the first month that she's been at the top of the ticket. 47 million more. And that's crazy. That's crazy stuff. Trump's internet traction is really organic. He has a large following. He's posting on his own. Harris, on the flip side, is paying for millions of dollars. And she's actually advertising in a terrible way. You wonder who's making these decisions behind the scenes, because she's spending millions of dollars advertising in states like California and New York. Which is like, what are you doing? You know, it's unlikely for those states to be flipped by Trump. Why would you spend money on ads there? Let me put it in a way that we can understand here in Middle Tennessee. When's the last time you saw a Trump ad on TV? Right? Well, when's the last time you've seen a Trump ad on social media? Right? Like geo-targeted for you in Middle Tennessee. Well, you don't see them because you don't need to spend money in Tennessee. Now, by contrast, I'll travel to a lot of states with my friends at Turning Point USA, and I've been in Arizona and Florida and Michigan recently. And when I was in Arizona and Michigan, especially, the amount of political ads that I see for Donald Trump, way more than we see here. Way more. So he's spending his money where he needs to. Kamala Harris, millions in California and New York. Now, to be fair, Harris's campaign is focusing more on the battleground states. And the top five are Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Georgia. Trump is hyper-focusing on Pennsylvania. Hyper-focusing. Because everybody knows you need Pennsylvania to win the election. And they've been campaigning there heavy. Michigan as well. But he's still paying attention to some other states. Now, Harris has spent $11 million in ads for California, New York, Texas, Florida, Washington. Trump campaign spent less than half of that. They spent $5 million in change for ads in Michigan, North Carolina, Arizona, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. Now, and the Trump campaign has spent less than Harris, but his campaign is again, exclusively focusing on battleground states, not states where the brand is strong. It makes sense. I think maybe after this interview, Harris is thinking, I need to actually advertise everywhere. Advertise and pray. Because this interview wasn't very good. Wasn't very good at all. So she sits down with Tim Walz and Dana Bash, and she's asked about the border. You got to ask her about the border, right? It would have been a crime if Dana Bash didn't. So, tell us about the southern border.
Another issue, big one, is immigration. As Vice President, you were tasked with addressing the root causes of migration in southern countries and
northern part of Central America.
The northern part of Central America that affects the southern border of the U.S. During the Biden-Harris administration, there were record numbers of illegal border crossings. Why did the Biden-Harris administration wait 3.5 years to implement sweeping asylum restrictions?
Well, first of all, the root causes work that I did as vice president, that I was asked to do by the president, has actually resulted in a number of benefits, including historic investments by American businesses in that region.
It's a weird flex. So the work I've done has actually caused American businesses to invest and create jobs in those regions. I thought we wanted to do America first. Kamala Harris isn't too worried about that. She did want to quickly shift the blame to Donald Trump. This has been a theme consistent with the interview. And one of the themes of this interview is that it's not even that we're not going back because, she's been the VP for 3.5 years. We're not going back to a Trump term. It's like we're not going backwards for the past decade. They're focused on a decade of Trump being terrible. And she says, with the southern border, it was Donald Trump that ruined the bipartisan border bill.
I will say this, that Joe Biden and I and our administration worked with members of the United States Congress on an immigration issue that is very significant to the American people and to our security, which is the border. And through bipartisan work, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, a bill was crafted, which we supported, which I support. And Donald Trump got word of this bill that would have contributed to securing our border. And because he believes that it would not have helped him politically, he told his folks in Congress, don't put it forward. He killed the bill.
He killed the bill. It has so much support, bipartisan support, she says. But in reality, the Lankford-Murphy-Sinema bill enjoyed bipartisan opposition. This is what they don't want to bring back up. It was actually pushed back on by many prominent Democrats, like Elizabeth Warren and Ed Markey and Alex Padilla and Gold Bar Bob Menendez out of New Jersey. He pushed back along the bill, along with Senator Cory Booker and LaFonza Butler and even Bernie Sanders. And, well, they pushed back because there wasn't enough amnesty. Republicans pushed back because, well, you were going to let in thousands upon thousands of illegal aliens a day before you let the DHS lock down the border. It's kind of an issue, right? And also, the opposition was ramping up before Donald Trump even weighed in on the southern border. So, but if it's Trump's fault, right? Orange man bad. It is. It's always Donald Trump's fault. It has to be. So you'd push the bipartisan border bill again, right, Ms. Harris?
So you would push that legislation again. I just want to ask
about... Not only push it, I will make sure that it comes to my desk and I would sign it.
Yeah, I would. I would sign it. So the border's bad. It's because of Trump. It has nothing to do with the Biden-Harris administration signing executive orders to rescind all of the Trump-era policies. That's crazy talk. It has nothing to do with the Biden-Harris administration stopping construction on the wall. That's obviously that's a conspiracy theory. It has nothing to do with the fact that they sued Arizona to take down the shipping container wall. Take your tinfoil hat off. It has nothing to do with the fact that they sued Texas to get the buoys out of the Rio Grande, or sued them to remove the razor wire from Texas, or sued countless states for trying to make illegal entry into the country a state crime so that way state officials could handle it. It's like, no. It has nothing to do with that. Plus, if you recall correctly, for 3 years, the border was secure. It was that small window in there where Trump really canceled and killed the bipartisan border bill that things became an issue. Right? Are you keeping score at home? Orange man bad. That's what we got from her on the southern border. And it continued. Harris is just saying Biden's good, Trump is bad. Nonstop. That's what we got from Kamala Harris.
He has the intelligence, the commitment, and the judgment and disposition that I think the American people rightly deserve in their president. By contrast, the former president has none of that.
Well, then why isn't Joe Biden still running? Right?
And so, one, I am so proud to have served as vice president to Joe Biden. And two, I am so proud to be running with Tim Walz for president of the United States and to bring America what I believe the American people deserve, which is a new way forward, and turn the page on the last decade of what I believe has been contrary to where the spirit of our country really lies.
Yeah, the spirit. It's about the spirit. You hear the pivot? It's the last decade that Trump has actually been ruining the country. So tail end of Obama administration, the 4 years of Trump, and then the entire Biden-Harris administration, all of that bad, and the 4 years of good, Trump's fault. But after that fresh word salad from Kamala Harris, Dana Bash reminds her what we all are screaming at the radio, reminding her, you've been in office for 3.5 years and you're still in office.
The last decade, of course, the last 3.5 years has been part of your administration.
I'm talking about an era that started about a decade ago.
See? Makes sense, right?
Where there is some suggestion, warped, I believe it to be, that the measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down, instead of where I believe most Americans are, which is to believe that the true measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you lift up.
Who is the Biden-Harris administration lifted up? Anybody? Asking for a friend. Because I remember the Trump administration where we had record low unemployment. I remember the Trump administration where we had record high wages for record low unemployment for black workers, Latino workers, basically everybody. Business was booming. Everybody was being lifted up. Gas prices were way down. Grocery prices were affordable. Interest rates were at all-time lows. So, like, come on. What is she talking about? Under Biden-Harris, who's been beaten down? The American people have. The only people that the Biden-Harris administration have lifted up are the illegal aliens that they're putting in posh hotels in New York City and handing out debit cards to. Miss me with the true measure of a leader. It's like, okay, if you want to play by those rules, still voting Trump. Still doing it. It's 521 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
A doctor charged in the death of actor Matthew Perry made his first court appearance today. And if you're traveling by air this holiday weekend, pack your patience along with that swimsuit. And human remains found in Coffee County have been identified. We'll have those stories at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Jay Harper. It's 5:24 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand, filling in for the one and only Brian Wilson. He's got a day off. He's getting a jump on the holiday traffic. Is that what he's doing? I
guess so. Yeah.
I guess so.
Good luck with that.
I don't know how you can get a jump on that. I'm looking at the super text line, monitoring the super text line. I got a text here from 3279 asking what was the name of the pastor that I had on the show earlier. That was Pastor John Amanchukwu. It's a little tough to spell, but he goes by Rev Wu Truth. Wu is in Wu-Tang Clan. Yeah.
W-U.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Rev Wu Truth. REVWU Truth. And that's on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. So definitely go check him out. He does a fantastic job. We've been talking about this Kamala Harris interview. You know, the one where she blames Trump for anything that's gone bad over the last 10 years, but anything that's gone good is, well, that's the Democrats did the good stuff, right? Of course. Of course. What are you talking about? So they would push the bipartisan border bill again. We get fresh word salad from Kamala Harris. It was scrumptious word salad. And even Dana Bash is reminding her that she has been in office for 3.5 years. So at least Dana did that. That was cool. She was asked about her flip-flop from back in the day where she raised her hand about border crossings not being criminal. Remember that? In 2019?
You raised your hand when asked whether or not the border should be decriminalized. Do you still believe that?
I believe there should be consequence. We have laws that have to be followed and enforced that address and deal with people who cross our border illegally, and there should be consequence. And let's be clear, in this race, I'm the only person who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations who...
Whoa. All right. So now she's tough on the border. Should we just, I started calling her this on my show. It's Kamagala. She's Kamagala now. Get her a red hat. Have you seen the AIs, the AI artwork of her, of what she's going to show up to the debate looking like? It's Kamala Harris in a blue suit with a red tie and dyed blonde hair. Yeah. That's what she does. She steals everything she can from Donald J. Trump. Again, I think she's just looking at the internal polling, but she's not paying any attention to the reality of what's happening on the ground. I hope you listen to Nashville's Morning News. Dan had a city council member from Aurora. She goes by the name of Danielle Jurinsky on his show, and she was talking about the illegal aliens that Kamala Harris has let in that have taken over apartment complexes in Aurora, Colorado, excuse me. Kamala Harris doesn't say anything about that in the interview. She's not being tough on crime against those transnational gangs. It's no. Listen, we're worried about the other ones, not these ones. But in Aurora, man, it is actual chaos on the ground. There's viral videos everywhere of guys saying they're driving by these apartment complexes and they're seeing Venezuelan gang members from Tren de Aragua walking around this apartment complex with AK-47s. All right. Could you imagine if you and I took over an apartment complex, how quickly Nashville PD would be down there? But no, these are newcomers, so we have to treat them with kid gloves. It's crazy. The reality of what's happening on the ground here in America because of the Biden-Harris border policy is just chaos.
Well, what's going on here, Kaylee, is exactly what it looks like. This gang has taken over several complexes in Aurora. Our mayor, Mike Kaufman, was on a program earlier on Fox this afternoon, and he said definitively 3 properties have been taken over by this gang. I do believe it's actually more than that, but this is what they're doing. They are patrolling these complexes with guns. They go in, they beat up the staff, they hold guns to their heads, staff flees. And as far as local law enforcement, I believe at this point that this is far beyond any one local law enforcement agency taking this on. And we need our state and federal partners to step in at this point.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't count on the federal partners. And I believe the state is run by Democrats, so that's probably out. So where do you turn then? chaos. And the Biden-Harris administration, they're going to bring more people back in. They've reopened the parole pipeline. That's nice. They've resumed it. Even though there was massive warnings about fraud, people signing up with the same phone number, the same email address, the Biden-Harris administration and the DHS is reportedly resuming the parole pipeline for migrants to come to the United States. They say migrants. I say illegal alien. You say potato. I say potato. But they're going to be letting in more people from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and you guessed it, Venezuela, where this gang Tren de Aragua is from, and they're taking over apartment complexes. And we've already seen the fruits of this parole pipeline. Do you remember the story about the man that brutally raped a woman in Brooklyn, New York, at Coney Island, of all places? Well, that was a migrant, and he was released via the parole pipeline. But hey, come one, come all. You say newcomers, the Democrats say new voters. On the way, Phone Your FARB Friday, round 2. It's 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good afternoon. We are coming up on 5:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Mostly cloudy. We're at 80 degrees. At least it's a little cooler. We'll have a forecast and a traffic report coming up. One of 2 Southern California doctors accused of supplying the ketamine that led to the death of Matthew Perry. He made his first appearance in federal court today. ABC's Alex Stone was in the courtroom in Los Angeles.
Dr. Mark Chavez can no longer practice medicine. His attorney telling the judge his client has agreed as a part of a plea deal to give up his medical license, and he'll close his medical practice as a result of his role in the death of Matthew Perry. Chavez appeared in front of a judge agreeing to terms of bail. Outside of court, his attorney, Matthew Benninger.
Our client is accepting responsibility.
Chavez plans to enter a guilty plea at a later date. He could get up to 10 years in prison.
Well, the summer travel season coming to a close this Labor Day weekend. The TSA says it expects more than 17 million folks to pass through airport security in the period between yesterday and this coming Wednesday. That would be up 8.5% from last year. Speaking to ABC affiliate WJLA at Reagan National Airport in Virginia, TSA spokesperson Lisa Farbstein says travelers should give themselves extra time to make that flight.
TSA has been in existence for 23 years, and of those 23 years, the top 10 busiest days ever have all happened this summer. So it's been a very, very busy summer.
Back here in Middle Tennessee, human remains found near railroad tracks in Coffee County earlier this week. They've been identified as a missing Manchester woman. According to the Coffee County Sheriff's Department, the state medical examiner's office has confirmed the remains were that of Bonnie Sue Williams. She went missing in early July. The department said police responded to the Forest Mill community area near some railroad tracks this past Sunday to investigate a human remains call. The remains were located by someone who was actually checking their deer cameras. Williams was missing for several weeks after walking out of the family home that she shared with her daughter. She disappeared on July 9th. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
536 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, filling in for Brian Wilson. I'm just the fill-in, so I'm a little bit slow to the trigger. Brian's usually on point, so sorry about that. We're doing Phone Your FARB Friday. It's pretty cool. I've always loved Phone Your FARB Friday as a listener, and now being a part of the station and being able to fill in here for Brian to listen to host Phone Your FARB Friday is very cool. So you gotta be in your bonnet or a burr in your saddle, and you want to call in for Phone Your FARB Friday, 615-737-9986. Give us a buzz. What do you want to talk about? We can talk about anything. I asked Chris Weber. I said, "Are there any guardrails?" He said, "It's a free for all." And I said, "All right, perfect. This is what I like." Stephanie in Gallatin wants to talk about Colorado gangs. What's up, Stephanie?
Well, hey, Chris. I have a daughter that moved to Colorado 2 months ago.
Oh, no.
And one of the places they were looking at, the number 2 on their list, was in Aurora, and as a parent, I'm just like terrified, right? Because I saw this on the national news and nothing's being done. And what's funny, when my daughter moved out there, I said, "Now, honey," I said, "you got to remember, Colorado is a sanctuary state."
Yep.
And she kind of scoffed at me, and I'm sitting here going, how am I going to get through to this child? But they just need to keep going north.
Yeah, it's crazy out there. I mean, as a parent, I would say, take a deep breath, definitely pray. But
yeah.
There are still police officers on the street, Tell her to keep her head on a swivel, though.
Yeah, well, and I've told her that. It's like, don't be looking at your phone, hang on to your purse, don't carry one if you don't have to.
Yep.
Lock your doors when you get in your car, that whole thing. But I'm terrified because I'm not there to protect her. It doesn't matter how old she is. But on a second note, real quick, Chris, I think that is a disaster. This whole immigration thing is a disaster. But on a second note, very quickly, I wanted to tell you there is a man in Hendersonville, and his name was Fred Bailey. And Mr. Bailey wrote a book called Nowhere Near the Bottom. And Mr. Bailey is conservative. And I think you would enjoy interviewing him on your show because he is blind, he is black, and never believed in handouts, and has created programs to try and help at-risk youth take responsibility and, succeed.
Yeah.
And he's got some interesting ideas on what to do with juvenile delinquents, too, but I can hook you up with Mr. Bailey, get you his phone number.
Please
do. I talked about this before.
Yeah.
So do you want me to text that over? Or do you want me to...
Send it to the text line. It's the same number that you just called on. Okay. And I'll definitely, I'll send you my email. We can go from there. I appreciate the connection.
Well, and I appreciate what you do. I've never had a chance to talk with you before. I do try to listen to you sometimes during the day, but I really like the fact that you're subbing for Brian, and I get to listen to you today for longer.
Hey, you and me both. I was very excited when they offered me to sub in for Brian. Big shoes to fill, but I'm grateful to be able to do it, and I'm grateful to talk to you. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
But he could switch and take the 9 to 12, and you could take the 3 to 7.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Stephanie. I appreciate the call.
I'm gonna get you in trouble. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Jeff. You're on the road. What do you want to talk about, Jeff?
Well, I've lived in Murfreesboro, moved up from Alabama, but I grew up in Hanover County, just outside of Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
I'm totally going off the politics. I just wanted to hear where you were in Richmond and what your history is with the town.
So I lived in Richmond, and I moved there in 2009. It was the first time I moved away from home. I grew up outside of Boston, and I moved to Richmond, Virginia. I lived in Henrico for about 9 months, and then we moved to Churchill, right downtown, right outside of Shockoe Bottom. We loved it. I loved it. I met my wife there. I have great memories there. A lot of my wife's family still lives in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Right.
And to be honest with you, for a while, I used to think that Virginia would be a place that I could retire to. My wife lived in the Fan, and she had a nice home there. And during the Summer of Love, the street behind that home was Monument Avenue. And it used to be this beautiful street with all these monuments and, Confederate generals and Robert E. Lee and all the things, right?
Jeb Stuart, Stonewall Jackson.
Yes, exactly.
Matthew Maury,
you know
Arthur
what I'm
Ashe
talking
at
about.
the end.
It's one of the most beautiful streets in Richmond, Virginia, with some of the most expensive real estate in the entire city. And they let that street get demolished. And I remember thinking, like, yeah, there's no way I can move back to that town. It's just a blue hellhole now.
Well, you threw around a bunch of places that I'm so familiar with, even though I left there in '85 to go into the Air Force. But yeah, that's pretty cool. I went to Patrick Henry High School in Ashland, out by Kings Dominion. If you ever took your kids out there.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, I appreciate the update, and maybe one day I'll meet you over here in the Murfreesboro area. Who knows?
Hey, man, I'm always up. I'm always up to link up. I appreciate the call, Jeff. Let's go to another Murfreesboro resident, Billy. You're up next on Super Talk. What's up, Billy?
Good evening, Chris. First-time caller. I'm interested in this Kamala deal with this word salad that she's always talking and not being able to come up with any specifics about her policies. I mean, I'm a conservative, but I don't agree with Trump on this mandating anything. I don't think the government should mandate anything. And I just want to know, with those gang members out in Aurora, and they're illegal aliens from another country, could that not be considered an act of war? Could we not send the military in there with some good old guns and just kind of start picking them off, for target practice?
Billy, I think you can do anything with proper leadership. I think the question is, do we have the proper leadership?
Well, we don't right now, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, maybe somebody can wake Joe Biden up off the beach. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to happen. As far as the mandates that Trump is pushing, elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, I was listening earlier to the radio station. They was talking. He was trying to mandate the IVF.
Yeah.
And I agree with IVF. I think they ought to use it, but I just don't think mandating anything from the government. We need less government, not more government.
Yeah, no, I get that. My thing is, I do think we need to do things to increase the birth rate in this country. We're below replacement level, and our Democrat leaders, their solution, instead of helping out families to have children, their solution is to import illegal aliens to replace the people that are disappearing.
And murder our own kids by abortion.
Exactly. So I'm anything that's pro-family.
Oh, I am too. And like I'm going to vote for Trump.
Yes, sir.
I'm a Trump, but that don't mean I think he's God, and doesn't mean I don't think he does things that I disagree with, because he does.
Oh yeah, but that's gonna be everybody, no matter who.
Yeah.
Like name one person in your life you agree with everything they do. It's not gonna happen.
I agree with that, but I've got some Democrat friends that Joe Biden could do whatever, or any Democrat could, and they'd agree 100% with them, even if they knew it was going to take food out of their own kid's mouth, just because they're a Democrat. And that's stupid.
I agree. I completely agree. I completely agree with that.
I'm sort of, kind of like the guy that I really speak my mind, and I don't have a filter sometimes. And
I think that's what I like about you, Billy. I think that's my favorite part. I appreciate the call. Let's go to Jay in Clarksville. Wants to talk about Kamala. What's up, Jay?
How you doing today? Thanks for taking my call. Well, I never thought that I would see a candidate for president be so, unfit for office. Of course, you don't really have, get a job and get experience for do that. But, I think we really have a much better choice than the other candidate. The other man was alluding that he really didn't like some of the things Trump did. But, sometimes you got to dance with the devil so you can find someone else to dance with. That being said, I mean, I
don't think there's any politician we're going to like everything about, and like with RFK coming in for his endorsement, right? There's a lot of stuff I really do like about RFK. There's a lot of stuff I don't like. I still think he's going to be a net positive for America. You know what I mean? If we can hyper focus on the things we agree on and get to work on them, then the country's going to be better off for it.
Well, I hope if he wins the election, I hope he does. I think he will. I hope he puts RFK in the government. I'd love to see him over at the Justice Department. That would be awesome right there.
RFK was asked about that, and they said he wouldn't make it through the confirmation process.
Well, I don't know if he thinks he'll make it through with votes or if they'll eliminate him like his dad and his uncle. But, I did some time in the military, did a few years. I retired, and I tell folks, I kind of shudder for the future, especially for the young kids. And I've told my own daughter, I said, the greatest question that your generation faces is, what do you guys want to be? Do you want to be a republic? Do you want to be a socialist, democratic? Do you want to be Nazis? I mean, I think that generation, and I hope you guys are listening, we don't pass along the love of freedom in the DNA of the bloodstream. It's taught to you.
Yep.
And I think that's where the conservatives lost the battle over the last 2 generations. We lost it in schools. We let the crazies go into our schools and do that. But
I'll tell you what, Jay. I do a lot with youth conservative organizations, and I'm affiliated with Turning Point USA, and I see a lot of young people out there that are on fire for this country. I see a lot of young people out there that are just going to be absolute dragon slayers when they get older, and we're lucky enough to live in a time with actual dragons. And I see conservative moms and dads left and right to me everywhere I go that are really empowered and hyper-focused on raising kids that actually do believe in these values and believe in hard work and believe in family and believe in God and believe in Christ. And I think that we're going to find ourselves in a situation in a few years where the kids that conservatives are raising today are going to be light years ahead of the kids that liberals are going to be raising, and we're going to find them inheriting this country.
Well, I hope you're right, but to end, I'll end on this. I think the other side overplayed their hand with the woke and agenda, and I think it's swinging back the other way.
Yep.
I hope it is. I just hope that there's no bloodshed with that. But yeah, hey folks, just. I'll say, if you, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? If you're not, you know how to vote in November. And if you think you're better off, you know how to vote too. But please, just go out and vote. I mean, there's a lot of folks in the cemetery that would love to come and vote.
Fair. Yeah.
Thanks for taking my call.
Appreciate the call, Jay. Jay said pendulums, they swing, right? And they went too far with the woke agenda, but it's going to swing back. And the most rebellious thing that the youth can do today is be conservative, Christian, not want to have sex out of wedlock, get married, have a large family. That is the most rebellious thing in the country. So if that's the new rebellion, I think we're going to be in good shape. That's just me. Larry in Clarksville, you're next. I got about a minute and a half, Larry. What do you got?
Well, I am Southern, so I speak slow.
What's up, Larry?
Well, and thanks for taking my call. Kamala and Stolen Valor Tim Waltz can kiss my rear end. And this stuff going on in Colorado, we should absolutely send guys in there from our military that still love our country, and they could end this crap in about 10 minutes.
I mean, if we let the military do what the military could do, we could have a secure southern border and a secure Colorado in, I think, 5 minutes.
Yes, well, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And salute to you. And the offer is still open about, letting you, drive my tractor and teach your kids how to drive it.
All right, Larry. I appreciate the call, man. I do got time for one more. Let's go to Chris in White Bluff. Chris, you're next on Super Talk.
Hey, appreciate you taking my call. I was just calling. Can't we, if you have people walk into an apartment complex, take it over with guns, aren't these people terrorists? Why can't we invoke some terrorist laws and go in and treat them as terrorists?
100%. I'm 100% with you. I just think that the problem is that the leadership isn't going to do anything. In fact, one city council member in Aurora, Colorado, there's only one making noise, right? There's only one going out there and talking about what's happening. But there's one city council member that quite literally commented on a Facebook post with about the gangs taking over the apartment complex, and her comment was, "What gangs?" They have their head in the sand unless they get proper leadership out there. Nobody's going to do anything. It's sad. It's crazy that this is happening in our country.
I agree.
Yeah, appreciate your call, Chris. Thanks so much. It's 5:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Again, my name is Chris Hand. I host 9 to 12 here on Super Talk. This may be your first time where you've had a chance to listen to me. I know you probably work during the day. I do too. Weird. Our schedules don't line up. But the podcasts are always available on Apple and Spotify. You can keep up with me on Twitter, True Social, and Instagram at Chris Hand on Air. Hit the follow button. I will follow back. And thanks again to Brian Wilson for letting me fill in on this Phone Your Farb Friday on Super Talk.
I started work in the early 60s, and Tennessee had a deer stalking program already in place going, primarily from Clarksville base within the Fort Campbell area. From that area, a lot of deer were stalked in middle and west Tennessee. And then later on, we started taking deer from those areas and stalking other areas. So it was a progression. It moved pretty fast. The deer sometimes were faster than the stalkers were.
I bet that was pretty exciting, trying to trap those deer and move them and know that you're making a huge impact.
Well, we wasn't all that confident.
Oh, really?
Because a lot of the counties had dog problems. You know, they'd be wanting to dog the deer, and it didn't hold up under that kind of pressure. And we had to go back in and restock. And there was a lot of different types of law enforcement work that had to be done.
I hear you.
And the officers did a good job. And we talked to a lot of the judges, and they clamped down pretty hard on somebody poaching deer out there. Back then, we only put out 15 or 20 deer. It was critical. In fact, at that time, it could cost you your truck.
Yeah. It's an amazing success story. You hear folks saying, well, we didn't see a deer when I was a kid, and now you just have to walk out your back door and you got in a subdivision grazing or driving down the interstate highways or whatever, you see a deer just about every day.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder if we're too efficient.
Some folks say back in the good old days, but I don't know. Right now, hunting and fishing is really good.
One of the doctors charged in the death of actor Matthew Perry making his first court appearance today. Israeli forces continuing their raids on the West Bank, and the sports world continuing to mourn the loss of a hockey superstar in an apparent drunk driving incident. We'll have that story at 6 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Jay Harper. It is 5:56 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name's Chris Hand. Maybe this is your first time hearing me. I'm filling in for Brian Wilson today. He was nice enough to take a day off, and I'm excited to be here with you. I usually host 9 to 12, and if you don't have a chance to listen to me, you can always check out my show on the podcast page at 997WTN.com or on Apple and Spotify. I hope that you do check it out. I hope you click subscribe. I hope you rate it 5 stars because I got 4 kids, and it would actually really be helpful. So thank you very much. We were talking about what's happening in Aurora, Colorado. That seemed to be the hot topic during Phone Your FARB Friday. And a lot of people are wondering, what are they doing to fix this? Well, I have some news on what's being done. Well, it's not the way you want it to go. The Biden-Harris administration, they're actually showering millions on sanctuary city NGOs, non-governmental organizations, to resettle these illegal aliens in the country in places like Denver, where they then go to Aurora, where they then take over apartment complexes. It's nice, right? What are they doing? Well, throw money at it. And that's the plan. That's the plan. That's what I guess it's working, I guess. Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, their Department of Homeland Security, sending sanctuary cities and non-governmental organizations hundreds of millions more in American taxpayer dollars for resettling these illegal aliens across the United States. Specifically, more than $380 million worth of shelter and services program grants will go to local and state governments as well as NGOs. And this is only if they're providing critical support, such as food, shelter, clothing. Oh, like shelter, like the apartment complexes that they've taken over. Yeah. Also medical care and transportation to, as they put it, migrants recently released from DHS custody, awaiting their immigration and court proceedings. You know, Donald Trump was in Michigan yesterday, and he had something to say about Aurora, Colorado. We'll bring it to you next on The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good evening. It is 6 p.m. and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Mostly cloudy, and at least we're a little cooler with this cloud cover, 83 degrees now. We'll get you your holiday weekend forecast and a traffic report here momentarily. A doctor accused of playing a role in the death of actor Matthew Perry by supplying the drug ketamine made his first appearance in federal court in Los Angeles today on charges that could get him up to 10 years in prison. ABC's Alex Stone was at the courthouse.
Dr. Mark Chavez is giving up his medical license and has agreed to close his medical practice in San Diego as part of a plea deal in the overdose death of Matthew Perry. Chavez's attorney, Matthew Benninger.
He's incredibly remorseful what happened. Not just because it happened to Matthew Perry, but because it happened to a patient.
He'll likely enter a plea in October. For now, Chavez is free on bond. Alex Stone, ABC News at federal court in downtown L.A.
The Israeli army in the middle of what it calls a counterterrorism operation to root out militants from the northern West Bank. Israel has justified these raids as preemptive, but they've also proven to be pretty deadly. ABC's Jordana Miller reports from Jerusalem.
The Israeli army says it has killed 20 Palestinian militants and arrested 17 others during its 3-day counterterrorism operation in the West Bank. Among those killed, the notorious head of Hamas in Jenin. Locals there reporting streets ripped up by IDF bulldozers, what appears to be a tactic to destroy IEDs. More than 600 Palestinians, the majority militants, killed in IDF raids since the Gaza war began.
Tributes continue to pour in for NHL hockey star Johnny Gaudreau. He was killed along with his brother last night. Here's ABC's Sherry Preston.
Outside Nationwide Arena in Columbus, people have begun leaving bouquets of flowers. And on the entrance to the stadium where the Columbus Blue Jackets play, there's a banner that reads, "In loving memory of Johnny Gaudreau." His team posting on X, Johnny played the game with great joy, which was felt by everyone that saw him on the ice. Police say Gaudreau and his brother were bike riding Thursday night on a county road south of Philadelphia when they were struck and killed by a suspected drunk driver. Both brothers were supposed to be groomsmen in their sister's wedding this weekend.
The wedding for the Gaudreau brothers' sister, Katie, it has been postponed due to that tragedy. Johnny Gaudreau leaves behind a wife and 2 children, ages 1 year old and 6 months old. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
.605 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? I'm Chris Hand. I know you're probably like, where's Brian Wilson? You're just getting out of work. You're used to your routine. Brian's not here. Well, I'm the guy that usually hosts 9 to noon, and today I'm filling in on the drive. Grateful to do so. This may be your first time hearing me, and if it is, I invite you to join me 9 to noon. If you can't, you can always catch the podcast on Apple, Spotify, and the 99.7 WTN app. We've been talking about a lot of things. I mean, we've had the Kamala Harris interview that happened last night. That's big news. A lot of the leftists in the media world are doing their best to put a positive, a brave face on a bad interview. And I don't know, it was just a lousy train wreck. And then from there, we went down the path of Kamala talking about the border, and that led us to Aurora, Colorado. And we've kind of dug our heels in on this story in Aurora, especially during Phone Your FARB Friday. Thank you to all the callers, where an apartment complex, 2 apartment complexes in the United States of America are under the control of a foreign criminal enterprise. The gang is called Tren de Aragua. And you've probably seen the videos. They're going viral all over social media, on Twitter, on Instagram. They're everywhere. The New York Post wrote a whole article about this. These gang members have essentially taken over the apartment complexes, forced out the staff, either by threatening them or scaring them away, and now they're the ones collecting the rent. The migrants, quote unquote, that the U.S. government put there, it turns out they weren't vetted very well, and they're actually gang members. Not all of them, but the ones in charge. And now all of the migrant, quote unquote, residents that live there are having to pay the gang members. So it's a crazy situation. How could something like this happen? And then you think, oh, yeah, that's right. It's just another day, part and parcel of Democrats in charge in the United States of America. Donald Trump was at a rally in Michigan yesterday, and he touched on this subject because, of course, you have to bring this up. It's massive news, and nobody in the mainstream media wants to talk about it.
You see the gang of Venezuelans today? They took over a building. They literally took over the building, walked in with machine guns, gang members from Venezuela. You haven't seen even the beginning of this migrant crime. We're going to have a migrant crime. And just remember, they have a hat. It said Trump was right about everything. And I have to say, I pretty much was right about everything. You're going to see, unfortunately, I wish I wasn't.
I wish he wasn't right also. But I do think that he's right. And I don't know about you. I follow a lot of weird underbelly internet stuff, and I've seen podcasts with gang members and Latin gang members, and they'll say things like, hey, they're waiting for something. That they're waiting for orders. And now you do have to understand with these Latin America gangs, they operate very, very similar to the way the old school Italian mob would, right? Like, you don't do anything without approval. This gang has actually gotten the green light approval from leadership to open fire on police in Colorado. That's been widely reported. So I do think you're only seeing the tip of the iceberg here. And that at a certain point, we're going to see this bubble over. And then what do? That's why we need to get somebody strong in leadership that says enough is enough, mass deportations now. That's what we need. Because you're not lifting anybody up in these communities. And you know what? The Biden-Harris administration, Kamala Harris can say, well, we care about these people. They're asylum seekers. But Kamala doesn't care. She doesn't care about anything but herself. That's it. Are you better off now than you were 3.5 years ago? I think the only person that can answer that question with a yes is somebody that works in the Biden-Harris administration. Because your average American can't answer yes to that. And your average American knows that Kamala Harris doesn't care about them. And Donald Trump in Michigan, pivotal battleground state, he goes on a tear where they'll tell you Trump is off message, and they'll clip him 13 seconds out of context, and they'll run that over and over and over, but they'll never play you stuff like this, where he lays out point by point by point every different group in this country and how Kamala Harris doesn't care about them.
Here's what we know about Comrade Kamala Harris. She just doesn't care about the American people, especially hardworking people or middle-class Americans. She just doesn't give a damn about you. She does not care about the deaths, sex slavery, drugs, or criminals coming across our border. She's been vice president for almost 4 years, and she did nothing to stop the invasion of our country. She says that that's not her job, but it is her job. The President of the United States gave her that job. She just didn't do it, and she won't do it now.
No, and she didn't do anything to help the border. The Biden-Harris administration did actually everything to break the border. They bragged about all the executive action they took to rescind Trump-era policies. They sued Arizona to remove the shipping container wall. They sued Texas to remove the buoys, remove the razor wire. They remember when they demonized the Border Patrol agents on horseback? They're whipping the migrants. It's just chaos. She doesn't care. She doesn't care about who she hurts along the way while she spreads her lies to gain political power, and she doesn't care who it hurts. I think that's the worst part about all of this. You know, you think about those people in Aurora, Colorado who live down the street from an apartment complex that's been taken over by violent gang members, middle-class Americans who are just trying to pay their damn grocery bill and their rent, and now they have to deal with this. Kamala Harris doesn't care.
She does not care about the middle class struggling over inflation, the cost of gasoline, electricity, and she doesn't care about the cost of food. She does not care if you lose your job or cannot find another comparable job. She doesn't care. She does not care if you have to run up your credit card to levels that are unsustainable. She does not care if you and your family are struggling, and she did absolutely nothing to fix it. She's the vice president. She just does not care.
No, in fact, she brags about being the tie-breaking vote in the Inflation Reduction Act, the same act that sent inflation skyrocketing. She brags about it. Record credit card debt in this country right now. People buying their groceries on credit. Now, I don't knock you for getting by. My heart breaks for people that are in that situation. There's so many people in that situation. Kamala doesn't care. She's just concerned about pushing an agenda and pushing the woke mind virus, as Elon Musk calls it. But she doesn't care. Trans women are women, but she doesn't care about women's rights.
She does not care about women's rights because she supported destroying women's sports and athletic scholarships. She wants men to play in women's sports. She's one of the leaders. Men should play in women's sports.
No, she doesn't care at all. And I think one of the craziest parts about that is, like, that's the most tame out of all the things she doesn't care about. Like, if we're putting things on a list right now about what needs to get fixed in America, and while it's abhorrent, an apartment complex has been taken over by a violent gang. Our southern border is wide open and terrorists are pouring in. Like, there's so much that needs to be fixed after just 3.5 years of Biden and Harris has the audacity to ask for a promotion. She doesn't care. She doesn't care about anything. She hasn't made your life better. She hasn't made your kids' lives better. She doesn't care about protecting kids.
She does not care about protecting little children from sex change operations because she chose Tampon Tim as her running mate, who believes the state, not mothers and fathers, should have the final say on sex change operations for their children. Do you know that? The state's allowed to decide whether or not they're going to do a sex change operation on their children.
It's disgusting.
Kamala Harris wants to outlaw your car and truck and force you to buy electric vehicles, whether you like it or not. She couldn't care less. And you can't afford to do that because, again, they don't go far, but they're much more expensive. She does not care how it impacts you and your family.
No, she doesn't care. She's actually lying about supporting the EV mandates now. She's, no, I don't support that. I don't support any of the radical ideology that I've espoused in the past. Trust me, bro, is the new platform for Kamala Harris. Just trust me. But we know the truth. She doesn't care. She doesn't care about women. She doesn't care about the middle class. She doesn't care about children. She doesn't care about families. She certainly doesn't care about our seniors.
Kamala Harris does not care about senior citizens because she believes illegal aliens should receive Social Security and Medicare, which she knows will bankrupt those insurance programs, making it impossible for you to receive your pension and your health care.
How many of the illegal aliens at the apartment complex in Aurora, Colorado are getting free benefits, free food, free clothes, free transportation, free everything while they terrorize their neighbors? It's insanity. But Kamala doesn't care.
Which you paid for your entire life. You've been paying for it. People are going to take it away. Those people that are coming in, remember, they're living in luxury hotels and our veterans are dying on the street. You know that.
Yep.
They're dying on the streets under the hotels. You have pictures last night, veterans dying on the street and other citizens, but veterans dying on the street and inside the hotel, nice and high in nice rooms. The government's paying a fortune to keep illegal aliens that came into our country, many of them criminals. There's something wrong with the thought process.
Oh, there's something terribly wrong, and Kamala doesn't care. I'll go a step further. What about the illegal aliens that are cutting our veterans in line at the VA when they just need to see a doctor? Is that okay? Veterans that have risked everything for this country? I'm not okay with that. In fact, it infuriates me. How can we help anyone if we don't have our own house in order? And right now, the house is a mess. But Kamala doesn't care, and as Trump puts it, after 4 years of seeing what we've seen, she's shown us exactly who she is.
Whether you like it or whether you don't, she doesn't care. Kamala Harris has had nearly 4 years to show us who she is. She is an uncaring politician with a radical ideology. She is a Marxist, just like her father. Despite her campaign of lies and flip-flops, we know who Kamala Harris is. She's the greatest flip-flopper of all time.
Yeah, she flip-flops on the border. She flip-flops on EV mandates. She flip-flops on fracking. But remember, it was the Democrat Black Caucus at the DNC. They said, guys, we got 70 days to act right. Do you remember that clip? 70 days to act right, and then we can get back to being crazy. See, that's what they're doing right now. They're trying to act right. They're trying to win over moderates and independents. I don't think it's going to work. And I think that when you look at guys like RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard coming into the fold, it's proving that it's not working. But people need to hear this stuff. People need to hear this message from Trump because it resonates. But the mainstream media, they're not going to air it. They're not going to play that on CNN. They're not going to play it on MSNBC. You're not going to see it on ABC or CBS or NBC. You probably won't even see it on Fox News. Thanks, Paul Ryan. But you'll hear it here on WTN. You'll find it on the internet on free speech platforms like Elon Musk's Twitter. Twitter is such a threat now because it's actually letting the news, the word from these people get out and reach the masses. It's such a threat, they've actually banned it in Brazil. That just came down. You got to shut it down. People are having too much to think. Please shut it down. It's unbelievable. You can't see Twitter in Brazil. And if the left had their way, you wouldn't be able to see Twitter here. I think this is one of the big things that's going to change the trajectory of the election from what we had in 2020 to what we had in 2024. There isn't a way for them to put the thumb on the scale right now. We have a platform that allows us to debunk their lies in real time. The truth is going to get out. And when she goes up and she gives these quick little interviews on CNN, we see her and we go, oof, not a good look. Not my choice for the next 4 years. And I think independents and moderates will agree. Kamala simply doesn't care. My name is Chris Hand. I'm filling in for Brian Wilson today on The Drive. I appreciate you letting me be part of your day for a little bit or for a lot. Thank you so much. If you enjoy what you hear, you can always listen to me 9 to 12 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, or you can check out the podcast on Apple and Spotify in case, you're doing things like conservatives do, like, I don't know, work for a living during the day. I totally understand that. So find the podcast on the podcast page. On the way, I do have some more audio from this Donald Trump rally in Michigan. One of the big hoaxes that the media has been pushing is the Arlington cemetery incident. Oh my gosh, you guys, you can't believe it. Donald Trump addressed it last night. I'll bring that to you next. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Former President Donald Trump with 2 campaign stops today. We'll hear from Mr. Trump at one of those events. We'll have that for you, as well as today's closing money news. That all comes up at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Jay Harper. I'm Chris Hand, filling in for the one and only Brian Wilson on the drive. Chris Webber is producing. We got a double dose of Chris, so it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. We're heading into Labor Day weekend. It's going to be the most expensive Labor Day of all time, so since the last one, and only until the next one. Hopefully not. If Kamala Harris wins, the next one will absolutely be the most expensive Labor Day of all time, but hopefully not. Hopefully not. I do feel confident as we head into November. As you've seen, the polls are shifting around. The momentum and the energy and the vibes just are evaporating around Kamala Harris. You love to see it. You do. And where's Joe Biden been? Well, he's back on vacation. He's back on vacation. Donald Trump went at him yesterday in Michigan.
Well, do we have a president? He just got back from California. He was supposed to go to the White House. He never got there. He went to Delaware, and he's laying on a beach sleeping all day long. No, seriously, who the hell wants to sleep? And who wants to sleep in public?
I never really thought of it before like that, but I don't tend to sleep in public. So it's a weird place to sleep, no?
He's sleeping. Do you think President Xi of China is at a beach sleeping? Do you think Kim Jong-un is sleeping from North Korea with his nuclear weapons all over the place? They don't sleep so much.
Can you picture Kim Jong-un just like taking a nap and like he's got the rockets in the background? Like
He's holding one.
Yeah, he's holding one. He's snuggled up with one. I totally picture a Ben Garrison cartoon in my mind. Like he's just cozied up. There's a little rocket next. There's a blanket over the rocket.
And we have a guy sleeping, and she's incompetent.
That's a nice way to put it. That's a nice way to put it. But she's got promises, right? She's coming up with all these ideas, like a child tax credit. No, she got that from J.D. Vance. Well, she came up with no tax on tips. Shoot. Nope. That was Trump. But she's going to build a wall. That's right. No, she's promising something else, right? Oh, yeah, that's right. Communism.
Kamala is promising communist-style price controls, free taxpayer-funded health care. Not that you're going to want. Nobody in this room is going to want it. For all illegal aliens, mass amnesty and citizenship for the millions and millions of migrants she lets in. She wants to give citizenship to people that have come here illegally. They didn't come through the system. You know, we want people to come into our country, but they have to come in legally, right? They have to come in legally.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. But they'll call him a bigot. They'll call him a racist. And they'll call him every name under the sun. But the nice thing is that the names bothered us a little bit in 2015. It's now 2024, and your boos mean nothing because we've seen what makes you cheer, right? And what makes them cheer is mass amnesty. What makes them cheer is open borders. What makes them cheer is the devaluing of the dollar. This election, as Donald Trump puts it, comes down to two things. It's freedom versus communism.
This election is not a choice between Democrats and Republicans. It's a choice between communism and freedom. That's what it's about.
Which way? Which way, Western man? There's two paths to go down. Which way? We can vote for the guy that wants to cut your taxes, or we can vote for the gal who wants to raise your taxes.
She endorsed a 70 to 80% tax rate increase. Look at this. She thinks the rate could be as much as 80%. She says, I'll think about that. Well, I won't think about it. Okay? I won't think about anywhere near it. In fact, we're going for a tax cut. You know, we gave you the biggest tax cut in history, and that gave us tremendous numbers of jobs. And we actually took in more income the following year after the cut because our country was booming like it had never boomed before.
I remember the boom. I do. You remember the boom. We were living pretty good. We were pretty comfy in the Trump years. Kamala says we're not going back. I tend to think that we are going to go back to an era of peace and prosperity for all Americans. And I think that everybody can agree that's what we need. That's what we need. Now, Trump isn't the only one out rallying. Kamala Harris is rallying too. She was in Savannah, Georgia. And you think she couldn't handle an interview on CNN good? Wait until you see how she handled the protesters that showed up at her rally. I'll play that for you after the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good evening. It is 6:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. It's still mostly cloudy. At least it's a bit cooler. 80 degrees. We'll have your forecast and the traffic report here in just a moment. Former President Trump with 2 campaign stops today, the first in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and later he attends the Moms for Liberty conference in Washington, D.C. In Pennsylvania, he spoke on a number of topics, including his visit to Arlington National Cemetery. During his remarks, Trump claimed that he visited Arlington because families of the 13 service members killed in the botched Afghanistan airport attack asked him to be there.
These people accuse me of doing this for public relations reasons, and the fact that we even got there. So I just want to, and they were so good. They said, "How dare they do that?" We asked him. They did ask me, and they actually came to my defense. It's nice because sometimes that doesn't happen.
At one point during his speech there, Secret Service had to rush a press riser where a man started to climb up. He and another person were escorted out of the rally, but the former president, he stayed cool and calm and just continued on with his speech. We now turn to today's closing money news. For that, here is Michelle Frenzen.
From ABC News, Wall Street now. A back-and-forth day on Wall Street ends with some gains. Markets closed out a 4th straight winning month. The Dow up 228 points. The S&P added 56, and the Nasdaq gained 197 points. Tech stocks led the market. Marvell Technology climbed almost 9% after its latest quarterly results hit Wall Street targets. A new government report shows inflation remained low last month. The core personal consumption expenditures index, the Federal Reserve's preferred measure of inflation, rose 0.2% from June to July, in line with Wall Street expectations. It confirms price increases are cooling. Inflation is down in Europe, meaning its central bank might also cut interest rates next month. The Teamsters union that represents workers at both Canada's largest freight railroads has filed the lawsuit it promised, challenging the order that forces employees back to work.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. Have a great Labor Day holiday. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
6:35 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? I'm Chris Hand. Filling in for Brian Wilson on the drive this afternoon as we head into Labor Day weekend. Keep up with me all weekend long, off the air. I'm on Twitter, True Social, and Instagram, at Chris Hand on Air. If you hit the follow button, I will follow back. So a lot of the leftist super texters aren't used to me during this shift. So when I get the hate text from them, I just send kissy face emojis back. Does Brian send kissy face emojis back too?
He does not.
He doesn't. I should tell him that he should start doing that. I think they like the kissy face emojis. All right, so I want to get to the Kamala Harris rally. She couldn't handle a protester. But first, I do want to play this audio of Donald Trump in Pennsylvania addressing what happened at Arlington National Cemetery. Because you need to hear it from him. You need to hear it from him. The mainstream media is putting all sorts of spin on this to demonize this man. But it's just another hoax. This is the bloodbath hoax all over again. It's just, we've seen this movie so many times. I'm surprised that they continue to fall for this. But anyway, let's hear from Trump.
And I got my team and I said, let's go. We're going to Arlington Cemetery. Okay. I said, we're going to Arlington. Because again, I got to know these people. Because honestly, they would send me death certificates of their child. They said, sir, would you sign it? Please sign it. We refuse to accept his name on this death certificate. They said he killed our child.
It's crazy. So they're giving Trump grief for taking photos at Arlington Cemetery. An Army spokesman came out against it, said he's using it for politicking. Yet you can go on Twitter yourself and dig up a picture of Joe Biden in 2020 at Arlington Cemetery. None of the mainstream media accused Joe Biden of politicking. They have to attack Trump because Trump looked presidential while he was there laying that wreath. Trump was invited by the families. Where was Joe Biden? He was on the beach. Where was Kamala Harris? She was on the struggle bus tour through Georgia. They didn't have time. That's what I thought at first. But it was actually even worse than that. They weren't invited. The families didn't want them there. They didn't want them there. And it's because, as Trump puts it, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden got them killed.
Joe Biden killed those young people because he was incompetent. And then they tell me that I used their graves for public relations services. And I didn't. And I'll tell you what, it was a disgrace. And she was involved. Remember, she said she was the last person in the room, right, when they made the decision. And pulling out was okay, but not pulling out like a bunch of incompetent fools.
No, that's what they did. They pulled out like a bunch of incompetent fools. It was disgusting. It was awful. I'll never forget watching that. It was terrible. It was terrible.
The mother would walk up and say, sir, may I tell you about my boy? You know, he was a football player, and he could throw the ball so far. He played quarterback, sir. And one day, and I realized that she's telling me a story and crying about her son who's now in a grave because of Biden and Kamala. And I listened to that whole story, how the ball was caught, how the ball was thrown, how the team did, the season the team had, and I let her talk. And then these people accused me of doing this for public relations reasons. And the fact that we even got there, so I just want to, and they were so good, they said, how dare they do that? We asked him, they did ask me. And you know, they actually came to my defense. It's nice, because sometimes that doesn't happen too. But they really did. They said, we asked him to be here, and we want him to be there always. And I just think that's great, and we love you all. Thank you.
That's how you handle public criticism. You attack it head on. Kamala Harris doesn't do the same thing at all. In fact, at her rally in Georgia, She's in Savannah. They couldn't even fill the place up. The local news busted them. The local news in Savannah was so excited that they were going to have a presidential rally. I guess they hadn't had one in quite some time. The last time a Democrat presidential candidate had come to Savannah, Georgia, they said was Bill Clinton on the local news. I'm not sure how correct that is, but that's what they said on the local newscast. But then towards the end of it, they actually exposed themselves because they said we had shuttle buses, right? We had shuttle buses getting people to the rally. And you think what I think with a shuttle bus. Like, oh, you had to park far away, right? You had to, it's too long for the Boot Leather Express. You gotta take a shuttle from one end of the parking lot to the venue, wherever you're going. But no. The shuttle buses were actually buses picking people up in Atlanta 4 hours away.
But for those a little further away from the hostess city, shuttles to the rally contained a lot of excitement.
I was in Atlanta and I heard that the vice president was going to be in Savannah, so I decided to just kind of beeline over here and check it out.
It's a beeline, right? A 4-hour ride on a bus. You're just beelining over there. It's just a beeline. So they couldn't get people to go to the rally. They had to bus them in. And then when they're there, the people that tried to show up on their own, well, they were the radical left protesters that Kamala has tried to court. And if they let her go with her own radical leftist agenda, she could probably win over. But they can't do that because then you lose the normal, sane people. Are there normal, sane people in the Democrat Party anymore? Because that's probably a discussion for another day. But she quite literally picked Tim Walz to satiate the radical left elements of their base. And maybe it's not that she picked Tim Walz, but she didn't pick Josh Shapiro. He was a little bit too Jewish. Let's be fair. Let's be honest. She picked a running mate to appease these radical left elements. The radical left elements are still out there protesting her. And as they interrupt her, it's amazing to watch. She gets visibly irritated, annoyed, and angry.
And across our nation, in addition to that, we are witnessing a full-on assault on other hard-fought, hard-won fundamental freedoms.
She tries to talk over them, and you can just see her body language just changing. She's just, you hear the stories about her staff, how they have to say, "Good morning, General." There's like 92% turnover in the 4 years that she's been VP, and how she's like a horror show to work for. As I see her get visibly irritated and angry in this clip at the rally, I go, oh yeah, I could see that. Who would want to work for that? But then she tries to address the protesters. Once again, she tries to appease them.
Hold up for a second. Let me just say something. We are fighting for a democracy. Everyone has a right and should have their voices heard. I am speaking now, but on the subject, I will say this. The president and I are working around the clock. We've got to get a hostage deal done and get a ceasefire done now.
So she drops the "I'm speaking" line. It's her line. "I'm speaking." She tries to appease them. And then she says, "We're working around the clock." She plays both sides of the fence to get a hostage deal done and to get a ceasefire. But you're not working around the clock. Joe Biden's on the beach. You're at a campaign rally. There's literally nobody at the White House. Who's working around the clock? This has been going on. We're coming up on a year. We're working around the clock. Then, after this, like, the protesters are still yelling. They haven't gotten him out of there. And she's just rattled. She's so rattled by the protesters. She looks nervous, maybe even a bit scared. And she's just tripping and stumbling all over herself because her eyes are off the teleprompter. You see, she's looking in the crowd at the protesters and trying to also stay on track on the teleprompter, but she can't walk and chew gum.
He even called for termination of the United States Supreme, the supreme land of our nation, the United States Constitution.
That will make sense to you? It's doing good, kid. keep it up. This is probably what it looks like on the editing room floor of the CNN interview.
He even called for termination of the United States Supreme, the supreme land of our nation, the United States Constitution.
God bless the supreme land of our nation, the United States Constitution. She can't handle a protester. She can't handle an interview with Dana Bash. Is she going to handle like real stuff? Does anybody think she can handle, something important? Donald Trump doesn't think she can handle anything.
Harris lost. Listen to these numbers, though. Seriously, if this were a Republican, they'd be stringing them up. Now listen to this number, because you have to understand what it means. 325,000 children have been lost. They've been allowed to be trafficked all across our borders. She flew in illegal aliens by the hundreds of thousands, and many of these were young children. But we have no idea where think of the number. 325,000 children are missing. Many are dead. Many are involved in sex operations. Many are working as slaves in different parts of probably this country and probably many others. But she was the border czar. Now she says, I wasn't the border czar. But she was. It was headlines, border czar, border czar. But now she doesn't want that term. But whether she was a border czar or not, she was in charge of the border.
Could you imagine, this is Trump in Pennsylvania, by the way, earlier today. Could you imagine the headlines if the Trump administration lost 325,000 children at the border? Do you remember the headlines when he was having the audacity to separate kids from their families and put kids in cages? I remember. And you don't know who these kids are coming with. They could be coming with coyotes and gang members and sex traffickers. So it's actually a good thing to separate them for a bit, get them away from the adult that's with them, so that way they can feel safe to tell the truth. But could you imagine the headlines if Donald Trump had lost 325,000 kids? And I ask you, have you seen this headline anywhere? Have you seen that Kamala Harris has lost 325,000 children at the border? Misplaced. Lost track. Oops. It's not an oops. It's over 250,000 kids. Over 250,000. She can't handle her duties as vice president. She can't handle an interview. She can't handle a protester. She's gonna handle a dictator. Seriously. She can't handle the border. Don't worry, though. She's got a plan. She does have plans. She's got big ideas built on hope and joy. One of those big ideas is mass amnesty.
And Kamala vowed to grant, remember, mass amnesty and citizenship to all of the millions of illegals that she let in, which will obliterate Medicare and obliterate your Social Security for seniors. And Kamala vowed.
Mass amnesty. Newcomers. They're rebuilding the voting base. And then at the same time, as Trump puts in Pennsylvania just a little while ago, they're not deporting anybody.
Kamala has provided deportation immunity to the vast majority of criminal aliens. Immunity meaning you can't get them out. Living inside the United States, she's importing MS-13 gang members back into our country. Nothing's going to happen good with MS-13 gang members. And they're going into our high schools, and they're going to class in the high schools, and they're accosting our kids. They're rough kids. These are rough ones.
Is that what you want in your schools? You know, it's funny, though. Even here in Middle Tennessee, if an illegal alien comes to town, they got to take them in the school system. And they're not coming with any paperwork. You don't know who they are. I feel for some of these kids, but you still have to go home. And I understand the optics are going to be tough. But this is one of the main reasons why I've supported Trump getting into the office. He only has 4 years. He can do the things that are tough because he doesn't have to worry about re-election. This is one of the biggest blessings that we have with Donald Trump coming into office. He's going to be able to make hard decisions because he's not worried about being reelected. We didn't have that same benefit with any other Republican that was running on the ticket. We have that benefit with Donald Trump, and I think he's going to take advantage of it. It's 6:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
$6:54 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. One of the biggest advantages that the Trump team has is they have good people going out there doing lots of interviews, lots of rallies. When Tim Walz and Kamala Harris go out, they usually say the same thing that they always say. J.D. Vance is not that guy. He says something new every time you see him, and he's been out giving interviews, doing talks with just about anybody that'll listen. And today he was on CNN, and he brought up the fact that we got Democrats on our team now. It's actually pretty insane.
We've got Democrats who are actively on the team. Tulsi Gabbard, who ran against Kamala Harris in the 2020 Democrat primary, RFK Jr., these guys have all come on board the Donald Trump ticket. And why have they done that, John? Because our party is the party of common sense. We don't agree on everything. We may disagree about tax policy or environmental policy, but we think we should have a closed border. We think American families should be able to afford housing and food, and we want calm and peace all over the world, not the world in constant conflict that Kamala Harris has delivered. So we've got a great big ticket with Democrats, Republicans, and independents on the Donald Trump team, and we're going to keep on running that way, and then we're going to govern that way when we win.
You know, it's amazing to see. They try to gaslight us and say that Kamala has momentum and Kamala has energy. And I just keep seeing us getting more momentum and more energy. The RFK endorsement was a game changer. Tulsi Gabbard endorsement is huge. What kind of endorsements are they getting on the Harris campaign side? Maybe a teachers union or two. Is that worth its weight in anything? Megan Thee Stallion will show up if you pay her. It just seems so forced and so fake and so inorganic. The flip side is just completely the opposite. And even candidate to candidate, Trump is authentic in himself. But Kamala, we don't know which Kamala we're getting on any given day. She flops on border security. Now she wants to build the wall. She flops on the EV mandates. Now she's flopping on fracking. You know, she pushed back against, I'm for fracking. I was against fracking in 2019, she said in the interview. And then in 2020, I totally changed my mind for no reason. And then I've kept my word since then. J.D. Vance calls her out for the flip-flop on fracking.
Well, you can't. Those are just totally inconsistent positions. Exactly. And I actually think that Kamala Harris may have told an explicit lie on top of what she's already said here. So think about this. Kamala Harris says that she changed her mind in 2020 on the debate stage. Her last debate was in 2019 because she dropped out of the race before it really got to voting. So she's saying that she changed her mind on fracking during her general election debate. That's not true. She definitely did not do that. So I think that Kamala Harris got away with a very dishonest sort of, revision of her record there. But then let's go back just to how this affects the lives of American families and American workers. Fracking is one of the main ways that we have to drive down the cost of energy. Right. And if you think groceries are expensive now, what happens when we increase the cost of energy even further, making it hard to get the food to the grocery store? If you think the cost of housing is bad now, what happens when we increase the cost of producing the materials that go into the houses, which is what a ban on fracking would do? She is pursuing a policy, guys, that is going to make Americans poorer in their own country.
Yeah, that's the nuts and bolts of it. If Kamala Harris is elected, Americans are going to be poorer in their own country. Since she's become VP, we've gotten poorer in our own country. We cannot let Kamala Harris anywhere near the White House this November. She shouldn't be near the White House now, to be perfectly honest with you. My name is Chris Hand. I'm very grateful to have been able to fill in for Brian Wilson today on The Drive. Again, I host 9 to noon. If you're working during that time, I totally understand. You can find the podcast on Apple and Spotify. You can find me on Twitter, True Social, and Instagram at Chris Hand on Air. Have a great Labor Day weekend. It's Super Talk 99.7.